4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome aboard the Steve Malzberg Show. The Hobby Lobby decision is in, and it was a 5-4 decision, and it came down on the side of Hobby Lobby. It came down on the side of religious freedom. We'll talk about that with Congressman Peter King in just a moment. We'll also be joined a little bit later on in the show by Alan Dershowitz. Our panel, our legal panel, a couple of attorneys, prominent attorneys will join us as well. So we have it all covered. Another decision said that unions, in particular healthcare workers in a particular union, cannot force those workers to join the union if they disagree with the leadership of that union. They've also expressed a willingness, the court did, to go further at a later time. So those are the two decisions from the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, we're waiting any second. The president is already 14 minutes late. He's going to give what many believe is an executive order dealing with immigration. How far he will go, we do not know. But that is momentarily approaching us as soon as the president takes to the podium, and we'll let you know what he says. Dick Durbin last week said that he's going to borrow the power to solve the immigration crisis if the Congress doesn't act today. John Boehner told the president there will be no vote on immigration reform in the House, prompting the president to call this press conference and in the Rose Garden at the White House. So we'll see what happens with that. We also have the threat from ISIS, and this is not a threat only to our allies, a threat to our interests in the Middle East. This is a threat to us here on the homeland. We're going to talk about all that with Congressman Peter King, but first, we're all going to watch this. Watch this.
There is a problem that has been exposed, which is that there are now a group of women of an indeterminate size who no longer have access to free contraceptive coverage simply because of some religious views that are held not by them necessarily, but by their bosses. We disagree, and the constitutional lawyer in the Oval Office disagrees with that conclusion from the court. And that's why we, primarily because he's concerned about the impact that it could have on the health of those women.
All right, folks, there's the White House response to the Hobby Lobby case. As promised, here's Congressman Peter King, Republican from New York, member of the House Homeland Security Committee and chair of the Subcommittee on Counterterrorism and Intelligence. Congressman, great to talk to you again, my friend.
Always great to be with you. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. All right, there's so much going on that I can't even prioritize and put it in the order of importance. So let's start with what was just addressed there. The Hobby Lobby case coming down. They're now framing this as, again, as a war on women. The left is saying this is going to energize the Democratic base come November, which they didn't have energy before this decision. You buy into that, and what's your take on the decision today?
No, I fully support the decision. This was a case of religious freedom, and I find it interesting that many of these Democrats and liberals who want to get their pictures taken with Catholic bishops and cardinals on issues they agree on are so quick to call a religious belief a war against women. So I can understand someone being pro-choice. I'm pro-life myself, and I believe we should have laws protecting the unborn. And I believe that today's decision is actually just very simply a issue of religious freedom. But it bothers me when they throw around words like terms like war against women on what is really a very important constitutional issue of religious freedom and the respecting of someone's religious beliefs, which should be what this country is based on.
All right, let's move on to, well, of course, there was another decision on unions, but let's move on to the president. The president, was told by John Boehner today that the Congress will not be taking up immigration reform for the rest of the year, which prompted the president to say, hey, then I'm going out later today and I'm gonna make my own announcement on immigration reform. First of all, was immigration reform ever a possibility in the House this year?
I think it could have been a possibility of a limited immigration reform, but it would have required both sides to come together. It would have required the president to come down, from his high horse. But I would say over the last several months, no. I think for a brief moment there was a chance, but what really hurt the president was the issue of executive orders, of not enforcing current laws. And there was a feeling was if we do go through an immigration reform debate and negotiation and come up with a bill where both sides would have to give something, in the end it may not mean much because the president would just enforce it the way he wanted to anyway. So with the big issue being border security, and that was the main issue that Republicans had. They wanted to be sure before anything was done that there was strong, solid border security. That no matter what we put in the law, the president could just either end up not enforcing it or waiving it. So that really, even if the president was serious about immigration reform, that did more to undermine his position than anything. The fact that it would not be believed because he, again, has so often either refused to enforce the law or just goes ahead and writes his own laws, as he's done on Obamacare.
Well, of course, and that's the crux, I think, of the lawsuit the John Boehner file. It's not really about, well, this president's numbers compared to the other president's numbers on executive orders or on recess appointments. It's about selective enforcement of laws, which is basically unprecedented. Agreed?
No, it really is. And, when you go through a legislative process and there is give and take and concessions are made and compromises are made, it's done for a purpose. And to go through all of that and then just have a president waive it or ignore it, it goes against the whole spirit of the legislative process, of the constitutional process of separation of powers. And so, yeah, he's lost credibility, and there's no doubt about it. Listen, he's lost credibility with foreign leaders overseas. He's lost credibility with members of Congress, and I think the polling shows he's lost faith and confidence from the American people.
One more on this. So an executive order issued by the president on immigration will be greeted by you and your colleagues as how?
Well, first of all, we have to see what's in it. But if he's just writing laws on his own, then again, this can be added to John Boehner's lawsuit, or it may be the appropriate response may be to find types of funding that can be cut off to enforce what he's trying to do. But it's definitely going to war with a co-equal branch of government. And for a person who is going to bring us all together, blue states and red states, into the United States, he's certainly going about it the wrong way.
All right, there's a report now, Congressman, and you were on the Sunday shows yesterday and did a brilliant job, I might add. There's reports today that they're considering new airport security regulations to combat this possible new form of explosive that cannot be detected. They could put it in toothpaste, whatever. We went through this, it seems, months ago, but now it's reemerged as a threat because of what ISIS is doing. Talk about the danger that not our interests in the Middle East or our allies, but talk about the danger to the homeland, to here in New York and elsewhere in this country, we are now facing because of ISIS, what they've done, who belongs to them, the passports they have, how they could get into this country. Educate us.
Yeah, we are right now, I say, in a more serious position than we were after 9/11 because Al-Qaeda has morphed and metastasized into a number of different groups. The most lethal is ISIS, which actually is technically separated from Al-Qaeda, even though there is still a strong alliance there. ISIS is focused in Iraq and Syria. They don't consider it Iraq and Syria. They consider it one Islamic state. And they are also were concerned that they would be involved with Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which operates out of Yemen. And we know that over the past several years, they've actually had scientists come in, and they are working on bombs and explosives that can be carried onto planes without being detected. So that's the real concern here. Now, without going into any real detail, let me just say that is a real concern. But what adds to it is you'll have thousands of Europeans and well over 100 Americans go to Syria to fight on the side of the Al-Qaeda allies, either al-Nusra or ISIS. They're getting very, very sophisticated terrorist training. Those thousands of Europeans come from countries that are called visa waiver countries, which means they can go back to Europe and fly into the United States without having to get a visa. So, again, keeping track of who those thousands of them are, where they're going, and when they're coming into the U.S. is very, very difficult, and we need to be cooperating entirely closely with our allies. That's going to be difficult. Secondly, you have those from the United States itself who have gone over to Syria and can come back here to the United States. And it's bad enough if they are terrorists, just, conventional terrorist training. If they have training in explosive devices that are difficult to detect, that really makes it that much worse, which is why it's important that we get airports overseas, which if the destination is going to be the United States, there has to be increased security measures. I really can't go any further than that.
Right.
Say it's a real concern.
And you expect airport security here to change their or enhance their checking for this new type of explosive in the near future?
It will be here, but actually the real concern is overseas. The planes coming from overseas into the U.S.
Right.
And many of these countries just do not have the tight security. They're lax. Their equipment is not as sophisticated as it should be.
Okay, so it's mostly...
You have to insist that it be upgraded.
Right. One more, real quick, Congressman. Of course, the 3 Israeli teenagers who were missing were found this afternoon. Israel with an emergency cabinet meeting. What do you expect?
Strong action has to be taken. I mean, this shows how impossible it is to deal with these governments that have terrorists in them.
But we're supporting them financially and otherwise still.
Well, we shouldn't be now. I mean, this makes it clear that we should not be. We should be taking severe action against the financial, and we should also support whatever, and I want to emphasize that, military action Israel wants to take in response to this.
Congressman, thank you. We covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Take care. Congressman Peter King, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Lots to get to, and we're going to talk about most of this with the panel, mostly the Hobby Lobby case, the case against that some view as a ruling against unions as well, handed down by the Supreme Court earlier today. So don't go away. We're coming back. The Malzberg panel is next, only on Newsmax Television on the Steve Malzberg Show. Stay where you are.
Endless pools are an incredible alternative to traditional pools, making it easy and inexpensive to swim at home. Call our toll-free number or visit our website. A free idea kit and DVD will be sent to your home so you can discover all the benefits of owning your own pool. Compared to traditional pools, endless pools are simple to install, easy to maintain, and economical to run. Our precision-engineered pools enable you to swim or exercise against a smooth current that adjusts to any speed and ability. Endless pools are perfect for year-round health and fitness, relaxation, and family fun. Our free idea kit and DVD will show you how easy it is for the whole family to enjoy a pool right in your backyard or home. An endless pool or an endless pool swim spa can become a showplace for your home. Call our toll-free number or visit the website to find out more about endless pools. The free idea kit will show you just how easy it is to be able to swim at home.
Get ready, America! The Affordable Health Care Act is here, and it's got everyone asking, how do I find affordable health insurance that's right for me? The answer is simpler than you think. Pick up the phone and call I Can Benefit right now. Waiting for you is a team of licensed insurance agents who understand healthcare reform and can help you find the right plan to take care of you and your family's health, because nothing is more important. Have you been denied in the past? I have. Struggling to pay high premiums? Join the hundreds of thousands of callers just like you and let us help you find a plan that works for you and your budget. But I'm not stopping there. Call now and receive your free ICANN prescription savings card. Save up to 85% on prescription medications at over 60,000 pharmacies nationwide. Don't wait. Call now and get the answers you deserve and a price you'll love.
Call toll-free 1-800-426-2983. That's 1-800-426-2983. Call now.
At that moment, it hit me. This is why I joined the Guard. I couldn't believe it. I just saved the life of somebody from my hometown. Be there for your community at NationalGuard.com.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back. The president took to the microphone late, just as we went into break, or a little before, during our conversation with Congressman Peter King. And basically, he said that the Republicans in the House, most of them are obstructionists, and that if they had passed immigration reform in the form of the Senate bill, then all the problems, or most of the problems, would have been fixed by now. Instead, they wasted a year. He said, I held off for pressuring them for a long time. He says Republicans are going against the will of the majority of the American people because they won't stand up to the Tea Party. He said some Republicans say the system's broken, so you can't fix it. And he said this is not on the level. That's his new slogan. It's not on the level. The lawsuit against him isn't on the level. This accusation isn't on the level. That's his new little mantra. He said, I don't prefer taking administrative action. I'd like to see legislation. But he says if they're not going to pass legislation, then he's going to take legislative action. So he's directed Homeland Security and the Attorney General to advise him on how far he could go, what he could do in the form of executive orders to, as he says, fix as much as he can on his own of the immigration problem. He's prepared to work with Congress, so he says, but he's ready to take action on his own. And he said, I would just love to sign a bill that's passed. But if they're not going to pass a bill, then I'm going to have to do it for them. I don't think that's the way the system is supposed to work. The congressmen represent the people who elect them. And if the people really were so outraged, they'd vote the congressman out. But they're not going to do that. And Obama's approval rating on everything from immigration to the way he's handling Iraq is way, way down. All right, let's welcome in the Malzberg panel. Now that you've been brought up to speed, the host of the Christopher Hahn Show, and former senior aide to Senator Charles Schumer, Christopher Hahn, and criminal defense attorney Janet Johnson. Hello to both of you. I want to start right away with Christopher. You want to weigh in on what the president has done here?
Hey, look, I think he needs to be taking more action and being more aggressive towards Congress, because let's face it, these guys are really just obstructionists. I think Congressman Peter King would probably agree with you if you asked him privately. I think that it's time for the president to act, because Congress is not acting, and we've got real problems. Now, he's asking the Attorney General, he's asking Homeland Security what he can and cannot do within the boundaries of the law, and I expect him to act within the boundaries of the law and do whatever he can as president, as commander-in-chief, as the executive branch to enforce the laws we have on the books and make sure that we do what we can to solve some of these immigration problems that Congress refuses to act on for purely political reasons.
Right. Janet, why should we expect the president to act within the law or within the parameters of the Constitution when we just saw Hobby Lobby today said he didn't do it on the Affordable Care Act? We saw last week 9-0, and we've seen about 12 times 9-0 votes saying that this president has violated the Constitution. So do you hold out hope here that he's going to follow the law this time?
Well, I want to get to Hobby Lobby because I don't think he violated the law, but I do think that it is a little bit of nerve on the week of the executive action that was taken previously for the appointments. On the week that got struck down, it is a bold thing to do, but I guess if you don't double down on it, sue me. That's been a Twitter, thing that's been trending. Go ahead and sue me. See how far that gets you. I think action needs to be taken. I personally, if I was advising him, would say right now, let's stay away from taking executive actions because the Supreme Court did just unanimously say that we did that illegally. So that's a touchy subject this week.
Yeah, well, but if you go back even a few months or years, it's a touchy subject right through the waters because, like I said, 9-0 decisions against this administration when it comes to them overreaching and overstepping against the Constitution of the United States. Let's go to Hobby Lobby, Janet. So you disagree with the decision?
I disagree on every corner. We always say four corners in the law. I agree thoroughly with Ginsburg in her dissent. There's a bunch of problems with this decision. The first is I think the science is just wrong. Hobby Lobby objects to these forms of birth control, not all forms, just 4 forms. So I think we have been getting that wrong a little bit in how we're covering it. But Hobby Lobby objects to 4 forms that they say are akin to abortion, but the science just isn't on their side. The morning after pill stops fertilization. The IUD stops fertilization. So I think their science is wrong.
That's not, Janet, that's not the issue. The court didn't go into the science of the various pills. So that's a diversionary tactic here, and it has nothing to do with the case. The case was, can a corporation, a small corporation, a family-owned corporation, can corporations be forced by the administration of the United States of America to go against their religious beliefs and provide this kind of coverage when their religious beliefs say they're against it and they should not do it. And the Supreme Court of the United States said religious freedom trumps the order of the President of the United States and the administration.
Let me get in here because I agree with Janet 100%. I agree with Janet 100%. But I also want to say this is yet another decision by the conservatives on the Supreme Court to side with money's religious values over regular people's religious values or lack thereof. And again, whenever money is at play, the Supreme Court, conservatives on the Supreme Court, they side with money. And that's what happened here.
Really, they sided with, excuse me, how did they side, whose religious values were not sided with?
How about the people who want to take birth control who work at Hobby Lobby? How about them?
You're kidding me, right? You're absolutely kidding me, right? You know what? Let me tell you. Wait, Christopher. Christopher, you asked a question. Now let me answer it. They could take anything they want. They could buy anything they want. They have the freedom to buy it and take it. They have the freedom to quit their job and go to some place where they'll be provided it. They could do whatever they want, Christopher. Give me a break.
Steve, as the only woman
my friend, in these tough economic...
Wait a minute, one at a time. Let's finish with Christopher here.
Let me just give you, Steve, in these tough economic times, don't you want people to have an a recreational activity they can afford? So why don't let's get... I don't
understand. I don't understand. What are you talking about? A recreational activity they can afford? Popping abortion pills? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Not abortion pills.
Enjoying life. Let's give them a recreational activity they can afford.
Wait a minute, Christopher. So you're saying that if the employees of Hobby Lobby, female, don't have this birth control pill provided for them, you know their financial circumstances, and you're telling me they won't be able to have sex. Is that what you're telling me?
Every actuary you talk to will say it's cheaper to provide birth control than to have these people raising.
All right, we're coming back. Janet, we'll start with you when we come back, I promise. We're talking to Janet Johnson, criminal defense attorney, and Christopher Hahn, host of the Christopher Hahn Show, about right now the Hobby Lobby case. There was also another case that went against unions, so we'll fill you in. You want to weigh in on social media? Here's how you do it, folks.
Meet John and Nancy. Like many people, John and Nancy have spent their whole lives working hard, saving their money and investing wisely, knowing that it would pay off in the end. But the reality is, today's world is not the same as it was. John and Nancy's stocks have taken them on a serious roller coaster ride, and it's all but destroyed their retirement funds. Their house is not even close to being worth what they paid, and to boot, their middle-class paychecks no longer cover their costs. All that hard work and smart investing has gotten them nowhere. In fact, they are no longer thinking about when they will retire, they're wondering if they'll retire. Then one day, John and Nancy heard about a man named Tom Hutchison, a veteran of Wall Street for over 2 decades. Tom noticed that the wealthy invested differently than normal people, and their methods seemed to be a secret they didn't want to share. So Tom left his job, compiled the strategies, and published them in the controversial book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns. John and Nancy immediately picked up a copy, began investing, and never looked back. Thanks to Powerful Secrets, John and Nancy now have investments that pay up to 20% a year. They learned about unique tax-advantaged investments, and their favorite chapter revealed a strategy that anyone can use to turn $50,000 into $1 million. Now, John and Nancy have control of their financial future in this new reality, and they have peace of mind about their investments that they never had before. Best of all, they are back on track to a secure retirement. To get your free copy of the book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns, simply visit www.myfinancialage.org.
The Great Recession and the financial crisis are finally over. The stock market is way up, and that means that now all senior homeowners are financially secure. Happy days are here again. Well, that's what they keep telling us, right? But if you're a senior 62 or over, have you recovered financially? Have you magically replaced all your retirement money? Are you suddenly all set for retirement? With a government-backed reverse mortgage, you'll never make another mortgage payment again. Instead, you'll receive money in any number of different ways that you choose. The money you get is tax-free, and there are no restrictions on how to use it. With an all-new and improved reverse mortgage, you always retain ownership of your home, so you can age in place gracefully. And your mortgage does not have to be paid off to qualify.
It makes life much easier. That was the best thing I've ever done.
Call 1-800-548-6498, 1-800-548-6498.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. And again, we've got more breaking news coming into the newsroom. Obama says he will fix immigration reform on his own. That means without Congress. The president's remarks come just about an hour after House Speaker John Boehner said Congress would not be voting on immigration reform. Speaking from the Rose Garden, Obama said, if Congress can't do their job, we will do ours. President Obama thanked Republicans who were willing to work towards a solution, but says he must take executive action to combat the serious issue along the U.S. and Mexico border. And Pakistan's military mobilized today, targeting militant strongholds on the Afghan border. Recent operations were limited to airstrikes to give more people time to move to safer areas. Officials have ordered the evacuation of nearly 500,000 people from the tribal region. The United States has pushed for Pakistan to take more action in the area. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, I promised and I deliver. Welcome back to the Malzberg panel. Janet Johnson, criminal defense attorney, and Christopher Hahn, host of the Christopher Hahn Show. And Janet, your turn to weigh in on the Hobby Lobby debate here.
Yeah, well, and as the only woman here, I do want to point out all of the women were in the dissent, all of the men were in the majority. But, you know, what the dissent pointed out, which I think is very effective, first of all, for a non-profit, yeah, the Religious Restoration Freedom Act would apply and they could opt out. This is a profit company. This is a for-profit company, so they can't even cite that. But the majority got that wrong. The second issue is this affects women, only women. And I think that's an equal protection problem that the court kind of glossed over. And on that ground alone, and to say this is just a religious law, it's not. It's a sexist law, and it's a sexist holding, because essentially, if they were Jehovah's Witnesses, there is no way this court would say that they could deny a blood transfusion. But when it comes to contraception, it's okay. That logic just doesn't make sense.
Well, I'll just say you're comparing a blood transfusion to taking an abortion pill. Give me a break again. But Janet, you say the first thing they got wrong and didn't apply. They didn't get it wrong. They didn't cite that it applies. It doesn't apply. But religious freedom is trumping what the Obama administration is trying to do. This is an outrageous affront to religious freedom in this country, and that's what the majority. That's what the majority found.
Only some
it's only Hobby Lobby's religious freedom that's being.
What's that? Say again, Janet?
Well, and that's what Ginsburg said in her dissent. Are we deciding which religions are going to be able to have this apply to them? Because if a Jehovah's Witness doesn't believe in a blood transfusion, how is that any different from saying, I don't believe in a pill that I think is an abortion pill, even though it's not, Plan B? Why is it not the same? Jehovah's Witnesses have a belief.
They're gonna have to bring that to court. But let me, as the only woman on the panel as you are, let me address that this only affects women. Are men's condoms included here in this in Obamacare?
Those are okay.
Well then, wait, time out. As far as I could tell, that is a form of birth control for men. The case involved a form of birth control for women, so why should women have it when men don't?
No, vasectomies are covered.
Oh,
you can get a vasectomy. How is that any different?
Yeah.
It's only
you could get, you could get it. Wait, time out. You could get a vasectomy. Well, can't women have a hysterectomy? I mean, what kind of analogy is that?
No, but the analogy being these 4 types are only utilized by women, Steve. They are only utilized by women.
And men and you're crying about that as a woman, and I'm telling you, there's no contraception coverage for men. So how is that fair? How does that give you the right to say, oh, poor women, when men aren't covered at all? And you're saying have a vasectomy.
That's covered, right?
What?
Men don't generally have the burden of birth control.
You're making this up as you go along, I see. Okay, Janet. Go ahead, Christopher. Go ahead.
Women not only have the burden of birth control, 9 times out of 10, when there's a single parent, it's a woman. So women have the burden of raising the child that was born out of wedlock often because of this. So I don't understand, why we would want to have one person's religion projected onto thousands of people who happen to have a job in their company.
If you don't like it, and you work for Hobby Lobby, you go to the drugstore and you get your own birth control pill. And if you don't like that, you go get another job. What can I tell you? What can I tell you?
Here's what the First Amendment believes. The First Amendment gives us freedom of religion, and it gives us freedom from other people's religion being projected upon us.
And it gives you freedom from the government. And it gives you freedom from the government telling you how to practice your religion, my friend.
This decision will be overturned within the next 10 years.
Wait. The decision will be overturned when?
Within the next 10 years, this decision will be overturned. As egregious.
That's only if you get Hillary on the court. That's only if you get another Democrat to appoint more Democratic justices. The country is in favor of this decision, regardless of what you say. Every poll shows it.
The country is not in favor of this decision. This is the kind of thing that's going to be an issue in the election.
Oh, yeah. Women are, that's what you, let me just tell you, Janet and Christopher, this is what you think of women. That they're going to put everything else aside, the economy, the struggles, the jobs, the healthcare fiasco, because excuse me, I'm trying to talk. Could you bring them down? Could you bring them down? Because I'm trying to talk. Okay, because some women can't get free abortion pills. That's what you think of women, and I'm sorry you think that way. Interesting panel discussion. We thank you both. We're coming back, and we're going to talk about women. But first, America's moment, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg
Show. Excuse me. What do you think you'd pay for this smartphone?
A few hundred.
That's top of the line. More like $425.
More like $9.
That's not possible.
It is on DealDash.com. See, DealDash.com is the fair and honest bidding site. This top-of-the-line laptop went for around $40.
That can't be.
Incredible.
I know. Everyone says it's too good to be true.
But it's true. DealDash.com gets people real savings every day, big savings. And if you're not satisfied, you get your money back. On DealDash.com, professional cameras sell for as low as $15. $50 gift cards go for $20. Laptops can be had for less than $10. And shipping is always free. It's perfect for gifts or just everyday necessities. Visit DealDash.com today and start bidding.
Is this from DealDash?
Uh-huh.
How much?
You don't want to know.
DealDash.com. See how much you can save.
Now everyone who uses catheters can get a better catheter with Liberator Medical's free catheter sample pack. These new catheters are better than ever, easier to use, more convenient, comfortable, virtually pain-free. Don't wait. Call now and get your free catheter sample pack. There's the all-new compact catheter for women, pre-lubricated, no drips, no mess, fits in your purse. The self-lubricated catheter. It lubricates itself in the package. Comfortable, no mess. The closed system catheter, pre-lubricated with its own collection bag, proven to reduce UTIs. The discreet pocket catheter, curved to fit in your pocket to go anywhere. The polished eyelet catheter for micro-smooth comfort, reduces friction and pain. Call now. We'll also bill Medicare and your insurance for you. Call for your free catheter sample pack with free shipping. Call Liberator Medical.
Call 1-800-344-6777. That's 1-800-344-6777.
The land of the free honors the bravest of the brave for their sacred pledge to protect our freedoms. Our Constitution and our way of life. We will always remember you. We will always salute you.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, as you know, there's a battle going on, and it's taking place on our college campuses, and it's a battle for the heart and soul of the young minds that we as parents send to those colleges to learn. And supposedly there's diversity. Well, there may be diversity of skin color and ethnicity when it comes to the students, but there's very little diversity of opinion when it comes to what you're allowed to say, what you're allowed to think, and what the professors profess to their students. Joining us now is the founder president of the Network of Enlightened Women. Karen Agnes joins us. Hello, Karen. Actually, Corinne.
Hi, Steve.
Hello,
it's great
Corinne.
to join you.
Sorry about that. Good. Thanks for being aboard.
It's great to be with you.
All right. So you had your 9th annual national conference in Washington, D.C. Tell folks, first of all, what the Network of Enlightened Women is all about.
The Network of Enlightened Women, known as NEW, is the nation's premier organization for conservative university women. It's an organization for young women on college campuses who want to get educated on conservative principles and want to be a part of a community where you're talking about these issues that too often are left off their college syllabi. But what we find is, it started as a book club, but once these women get involved, they want to do more than just read books. So they're hosting debates, holding panel discussions, and really become leaders on their college campuses, bringing a lot of intellectual diversity to campus.
Yeah, we got your website up there right now. What's the website? We got the actual website
is
itself up on the screen. What's the address? Yeah. Yeah.
It's enlightenedwomen.org. And I hope that some of your viewers, after hearing a little bit more about the organization, might want to get a chapter started. We've got chapters on more than 20 college campuses around the country. It was started at the University of Virginia and has just spread throughout the country. So we are always eager to get more chapters started and hope some of your viewers might want to join our new movement.
Well, let me ask you, how do you combat, I just had a panel discussion, if you want to call it that, with two, one I knew was a liberal. He's an attorney, but he's a political operative kind of guy, Christopher Hahn, and I had a female attorney who, it turned out, seems to me to be of the liberal persuasion. She was dead set against the Hobby Lobby case, and without going into the particulars, the Democrats are already out there, the liberals are already out there, some of the attorneys are already out there framing this as a decision against women. And in my view, they think so little of women that Christopher Hahn actually said this is going to motivate women to come out in the midterm elections, women who would not ordinarily vote. And why? Because some women who work for certain companies won't have their birth control paid for them. I mean, is that mindset something you have to combat? Or do the women you talk to already say, this is insane, we're not going to vote on that issue?
I'd encourage anyone who thinks that young women are a lost cause for conservatives to come to one of our new events. As you mentioned, we had our 9th annual national conference just a couple weeks ago and held it at the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C., and had over 100 young women. We had a packed crowd, and these women were excited to learn about the issues, but not just learn for themselves, but then learn how to talk about them and get the ammunition they need to take these viewpoints back to their college campuses. We had Katie Pavlich, New York Times bestselling author. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Corinne, what issues are we talking about?
So we had Katie Pavlich spoke a lot about the National Organization for Women versus NEW, and how some of these old line feminist groups are selling socialism and Marxism and bigger government to young women. And she talked about the importance of a limited government for young women and how it actually benefits them. We also had professional development panels. As you've probably heard, Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In book has been very popular among young women. And it's important to take another perspective on a lot of those issues and talk about not just leaning into the workplace, but also leaning into life and how our policies in Washington influence the decisions that young women make in those life choices. and then talking about some of these policy alternatives. As you remember, I'm sure, in the last presidential campaign, the Obama campaign put out the Life of Julia, this infographic showing what life would be like under President Obama. And at every major stage in this young woman's life, she had some interaction with the federal government, whether it's going to school, whether it's starting a business, whether it's even having a baby. Every interaction involved the federal government. And so we had 3 policy experts come offer some alternatives for these young women so that they could get a different voice. Because the problem is, right now the left often, just controls the microphone, and so they shout the loudest, and so they're the voices that these young women hear. So it's important to provide an alternative.
Right, and I would assume or presume that when you talk about the left controlling the microphone, as they do in some cases, not all, as evidenced by this show and this network, you're talking about the mainstream media. How do you combat not only what's being taught on college campuses, the other groups on college campuses, but also, what they see not only from the news media, but on shows, on programs, as part of programming that these women are watching for entertainment. You got to combat all of that, don't you?
Yes, it's important that we cultivate strong voices. So not only do we need to call out the bias when we see it, but we also need to cultivate that next generation of journalists and writers and those people who are going to be community leaders. So one of the things I was excited about at our national conference is we announced a new essay contest. And the topic is on the 2014 commencement speakers. As you probably remember, we had a number of women speakers who either had their invitations rescinded or withdrew because of leftist student protests. And so I think that's a great issue that we can talk about on campus and talk about the importance for intellectual diversity and fairness, and how this actually ends up, being a disservice for these students because they don't get to hear an alternative.
Let me ask you this. I just heard it again today while I was brushing my teeth, I think, and I said, I really got to do a commentary on this. And I've had Christina Hoff Sommers, I've had great women on who really set people straight, have written great books and great pieces. I want to ask you your take on this. Women have no self-confidence. Women are shy. We heard this in the 80s. Girls won't raise their hand. Girls aren't called on. They're not encouraged to be in science and math. When we're seeing the statistics show quite the opposite now in universities. So when you hear women have no self-confidence and that's a major problem, and it's the same old arguments from the 80s, which statistics have disproven. Is that an attempt by these liberal women's groups and the media to actually hold women down in some way?
It's unfortunate that those on the left sometimes are quick to use old and outdated statistics to try to make their case and to try to help women. A great example of this is the whole Ban Bossy campaign that's led by Anna Marie Chavez from the Girl Scouts and Sheryl Sandberg from Lean In. They wanted to start a movement, and they have started a movement, although I don't think it's gotten much traction, to try to ban the word bossy. But one of the main statistics that it relied on was from over 15 years ago about how young girls in middle school said that they were less likely to like to lead. They were 25% less likely by, I think it was middle school. And when you rely on statistics 15 years old for something like that, where we've really been working in our education system to promote women, it really discounts the effort. So I think you're right to call out some of these misguided statistics and how they're using them to manipulate these campaigns.
And one more for you, Corinne. Hillary Clinton has already said that when she was running in 2008, there was sexism involved. She was a victim of sexism. She's already implicated, made the implication that certain criticisms, if you bring them up, certain topics, if you bring them up, naturally it's only because she's a woman. Playing that sex card as a candidate, especially a possible presidential candidate, how harmful is that for women, young women?
Well, I think it's important that we have, good role models out there, and that when there is blatant sexism, that we call it out. But the problem is when you have some people that might be quick to turn to that when there are other explanations, and that's what we've got to be cautious about.
All right, Corinne Agnes, founder and president of the Network of Enlightened Women, or NEW. Welcome aboard. Thanks for coming. We'll speak to you again, and good luck with your organization.
Thank you. It's great to talk with you.
My pleasure. All right, folks, very interesting. And this is, as you know, this is much needed. This is so much needed. A group like New and other groups that are out there that want to take young women, especially reach them on the college campuses across the country, and encourage conservative principles. At least give them an opportunity to hear conservative principles, to express conservative principles. Because as you well know, and we've spoken to David Horowitz and countless others, that you cannot freely express everything you would like to express on your college campus. You know, certain zones where you can't say this, you can't say that, certain zones where you can say this and that. And you know, conservative guests and conservative speakers, sometimes if they get to speak, they need a police escort, unfortunately. And it's just, it's a shame what's going on with our higher education system. But it's an extension of where we are in the media and in certain parts of our nation. We're coming back, folks. Give me 5, the first of 3 today, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Hi, I'm Mike Reagan. If you think the worst of Obamacare is behind us, think again. Soon its new rules will affect every business, every insured person, and every Medicare recipient. That's why you need to protect yourself, your family, and your business with the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's easy to read, the fastest way for you to understand this law. The Obamacare Survival Guide gives you the tips, loopholes, and strategies you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need to get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's a #1 New York Times bestseller, and already more than 500,000 Americans have gotten their copy. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law. The Obamacare Survival Guide is at bookstores everywhere, or get Newsmax's $4.95 special offer and save $15 off the cover price. Just go online now or call us today.
If you want an adjustable bed, shop by phone and save on a new Craftmatic, the best-selling adjustable brand ever. Call for prices and free information. There's no obligation. Our everyday low prices are guaranteed. Compare us to the leading memory foam brand and save hundreds, even $1,000 or more. Discover our 30-day in-home trial. We won't be undersold. There's no hassle, no pressure, no pain. No salesman will come to your home. Convenient delivery, installation, and in-home service in the continental U.S. Watch TV, read, eat, rest, and relax at the touch of a button. Enjoy personal heat and soothing massage at a price you can afford. So why consider anything else? Discover Craftmatic for less, up to 50% less. Call for prices and free information and save hundreds, even $1,000 or more on luxurious memory foam. There's no obligation. Call now.
Call 1-800-686-3106. That's 1-800-686-3106. Call 1-800-686-3106. Call now.
Funerals are a very difficult thing for a family to go through. Besides the sorrow, loved ones are left with the stress and the high cost of arranging a funeral. That's why Funeral Advantage was formed, to help protect your family from financial hardship. It pays your loved ones up to $20,000 cash immediately for a funeral and any other expenses.
It was easy. There were no long, complicated forms to fill out.
The average funeral can easily cost $9,000 or more, but the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255, leaving your loved ones to pay the balance.
What a relief knowing that my benefits will never be canceled and my rate is locked in for life.
If you're between 40 and 85, call the toll-free number today to get your free information guide. There's no risk or obligation, so call now.
Call 1-800-215-1400. Don't wait. Call now.
We're the stronger than we look type. The braver than you think type. The type that's sure the time will come when we put Type 1 behind us. We're the progress is inevitable type. The rise to every challenge type. The type that knows bit by bit the future is certain to get better. We're the plan for a cure type. the improve life along the way type. The type that will stop at nothing. Absolutely nothing. Until type 1 becomes type none.
To visit the area, whether it was McAllen, whether it was Laredo, whether it was El Paso, now in Brownsville, on a number of occasions. And he has reinforced the idea that anyone who comes here sees that this is a community with a border going through it. And this crisis, that some call a crisis, we have to view as an opportunity.
There she is, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Gimme 5. Nancy Pelosi down in Texas, talking about the humanitarian crisis, which many of us view as a humanitarian crisis and an outrage of these children pouring across the border. She views it as an opportunity. The only opportunity I see here is to send them back. But hey, I don't want to put words in the mouth of the fine minority leader of the House of Representatives. Here's more.
It's about treating people with respect. What we just saw was so stunning. If you believe, as we do, that every child, every person has a spark of divinity in them and is therefore worthy of respect, what we saw in those rooms was dazzling, sparkling array of God's children worthy of respect.
All right, this is the, folks, your heart bleeds for the children, but the parents who put their children in this position of sickness, of an uncertain future. It should be a certain future being sent back. The uncertainty is what brings them across the border. The uncertainty is because of people like the President and Nancy Pelosi, who wants to view this as an opportunity instead of saying, hey, don't do this. And these kids are suffering, ladies and gentlemen, more.
I'm a mother of 5. I have 9 grandchildren. I wish that I could take all those children home with me. I don't know if it's what the rules about it are, that I wish that you could all see what we saw today and what Congressman Vela and Congressman Hinojosa saw yesterday in McAllen. Perhaps the most tragic image I will take home with me, and I wish I could take him too, was the little boy who was infected with the virus and then in isolation, all by himself. But that's for his safety and for the safety of others.
And how many with a virus or a disease or who haven't had their shots, according to our standards, are now on buses or planes or flying to camps all over the country? Nancy Pelosi wants to take them all home? Take them all home, Nancy, or send them all back. These children don't belong in this country. My goodness. This is a humanitarian crisis for the sake of the children. They need to go back with their parents. Now listen to this analysis.
We're all Americans in this hemisphere, North and South America, to work together to improve the situation in those countries so that the danger is not so keen. To be careful about the trafficking issue, which is of a concern to all of us wherever it happens in the world. And on our border, our responsibility to do so in a way that is in the best interest of the children, what they call the best interest determination.
Yeah, the best interest of the United States of America should come first. I know we're dealing with children, but they have to go back because it's in our best interest as well. We're all one. We're all Americans in the Northern Hemisphere. We're not all United States citizens, and that's the difference. More.
Well, I hope that, while some may have tried to politicize it, I hope that that was not the case. And I think anyone who comes here knows that this is not about an issue. It's about a value, and it's a value that we share, all Americans share, is that we will show how strong we are to the rest of the world on how we deal with this humanitarian opportunity or crisis that we have.
It's an opportunity. You see this? It's not a humanitarian crisis. It's an opportunity. An opportunity for what? We have to show the world we are strong. We have to show the world we respect our borders. We have to show the world that we do not have neon flashing lights that say, come, bring your children, send your children illegally, and they will stay, and you and them will be rewarded. On the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
In 2014, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you're robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at aftbook.com. That's aftbook.com.
Victims of mesothelioma and lung cancer caused by asbestos and their families may be entitled to receive a cash award from over $18 billion in asbestos trust funds now available. If you or a loved one was diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer caused by asbestos, call the number on your screen now. Even if a loved one has passed due to mesothelioma or asbestos lung cancer, you may still be entitled to a cash award. Mesothelioma is a rare cancer caused by exposure to asbestos. Many victims were in the Navy, shipyards, or power plants, or worked in the construction, plumbing, insulation, or automotive trades. Many more were exposed in and around their homes. For nearly 30 years, we have successfully helped thousands of victims and families get the financial compensation they deserve. Time is limited. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer caused by exposure to asbestos,
call 1-800-290-4243 now.
Attention active duty National Guard, Reserve, and retired veterans. If you or loved one was injured while serving our country anytime after October 2001, you may qualify for up to $100,000 in tax-free cash TSGLI benefits even if the injury was not related to military service. Also, if you have been denied VA disability benefits for a service-related issue, we may be able to help. To find out if you have a claim, call the number on your screen. Operators are standing by to assist you. Don't wait. Call the number on your screen now.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Public sector unions took a hit from the Supreme Court today. In a 5-4 split decision, the court ruled that public sector unions cannot collect fees from non-union home healthcare workers. Justices cited the practice violates the First Amendment rights of workers who don't agree with union leadership. Non-union public sector workers currently have to pay fair share fees to cover collective bargaining costs. The decision does not affect workers in the private sector. And another ruling revisits a key component of the Affordable Care Act. The Supreme Court ruled that religious corporations cannot be forced to cover contraception for their employees. This decision was also a split 5-4 and strikes a blow to the ACA's employer healthcare insurance mandate. More than 50 companies, including Hobby Lobby, filed lawsuits saying the mandate violated their religious freedom. And the search for 3 missing Israeli teens ended today. Israeli authorities report all 3 teens have been found dead near Hebron and West Bank. Israeli Prime Minister blamed Hamas for abducting the teens. Troops conducted raids in Palestinian territories to search that was to enter its 3rd week. And General Motors announces it's prepared to pay billions of dollars to crash victims who drove their cars. Victims must be able to prove their crash was the result of an ignition switch error. GM says it will pay whatever it costs. The company is trying to curb its legal liabilities, and lawyers say that connected deaths and injuries could number in the hundreds. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, we're kicking off hour number 2 of the Steve Malzberg Show, and we'll be joined by Armstrong Williams, Newsmax contributor, host of The Right Side with Armstrong Williams, and he'll be here to discuss the Armstrong Williams Show coming to Newsmax TV. We'll also talk about today's Supreme Court decisions and much, much more. Then Noah Rothman, associate editor of HotAir.com. He will join us to discuss the media coverage of today's decisions and the IRS scandal. And then Adele Kim will be here, legal counsel for the Beckett Fund and attorney for the Green family of Hobby Lobby fame. She'll be here to discuss the Supreme Court ruling on that case. All that, give me 5 and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, imagine a whole nation dominated, obsessed with 3 missing teenagers who were kidnapped while they were hitchhiking back from, in this case, a religious school. That's what's been going on in the state of Israel for weeks now. Ever since those 3 teenagers, I believe aged just 19 and 2 16-year-olds, were kidnapped while hitchhiking, and Israeli forces have conducted raids in the West Bank, and the nation has been constantly focused, glued to this issue of getting those teenagers back. Hamas praised the kidnappings, although they cleverly never claimed responsibility for the kidnappings. And the Palestinian Authority, because they're, in my view, terrorists with suit and tie, they were against the kidnapping from the beginning, don't you know? Yet, this occurred after the marriage of the Palestinian Authority and Hamas into a unity government. A marriage which resulted in the U.S. saying, we support that government. Who cares if Hamas, who we, the United States, calls a terrorist organization, is part of it? You're going to keep getting money? You're going to keep getting us talking to you? We support that unity government. So guess what they found today in Israel, in Hebron, north of Hebron? 3 dead teenagers. In Israel, reportedly, there were already planes in the sky. Israel is about to unleash, I hope with a fury, retaliation towards the Hamas and the kidnappers and the people who took and killed these 3 teenagers. And will this unleash another war? Well, the head of Hamas says it will unleash the gates of hell upon Israel. We've heard that before. The only question is, does Israel have it within them to finish the job? We shall see. Armstrong Williams joins us, but first, let's look at this.
Long ago, there were segregationists who made a religious argument and said that they found somewhere in the Bible, for example, a justification for racial segregation in the South, and obviously that did not hold water. Now, this is perhaps a bit different. It deals with employees of the company.
Okay, folks, Eugene Robinson, the Washington Post and MSNBC, comparing Hobby Lobby and their claims and their desires to segregationists in the South. Joining us now, folks, is Armstrong Williams, as promised, Newsmax contributor, host of The Right Side with Armstrong Williams. And Armstrong, great to talk to you again, sir.
Hello, Steve. It's always a pleasure.
Well, it's my pleasure, my honor, and it's my pleasure and honor to welcome you aboard Newsmax Television, the Armstrong Williams Show, coming to Newsmax TV on weekends. That's very exciting for everybody involved.
Thank you for your enthusiasm. We're pretty ecstatic about it on our end also. It's a good combination. I have such respect for Chris Ruddy and Newsmax and you and what you guys do in terms of the delivery of content and empowering people with their health and their wealth. And I mean, listen, there's no one else in the marketplace doing what you guys are doing. And I'm just so happy to be associated with the brand. Well, appreciate that, and you know, you and I have always had a great relationship going way back, and I've always thought the world of you, and great to have you aboard, and we look forward to watching it on the weekends on Newsmax Television. Now, let's talk a little bit about everything that's going on here. First of all, the ridiculous analogy by Eugene Robinson to Hobby Lobby and segregationists in the Old South. Well, you know what? The good thing about America is that ignorance and intelligence is allowed. Obviously, the Supreme Court, in its 5-4 decision, made it clear that you cannot force these religious institutions to pay for contraceptives. To me and many other people, that's just common sense. It was a very close vote on the Supreme Court, but yet Justices Scalia, Kennedy, Thomas, Alito, and Chief Justice Roberts saw the common sense and the fact that this is just unfair to churches and other religious institutions. And so, you know what? I respect the Supreme Court, even when they get it wrong sometime, even when they voted an Affordable Care. I did not like the outcome, but I always respect the justices in rendering their decisions.
Yeah, and this is another, defeat for the Obama administration, albeit narrow. Nonetheless, this was a long-awaited decision, and it was the highlight of the court session, some may say. And and you worked in the Supreme Court, of course, and this court has knocked down this administration by 9-0 votes. 10, 12 times at this point. And this is an administration that many, including Jonathan Turley, I keep bringing him up, that say this is a president who wants to be an imperial president and is totally out of control.
Well, if you go back to January 2012, and I know you're alluding to the National Relations Labor Board.
Right, the NLRB, yeah.
Yeah, when the president tried to convince us, which was absolutely nonsense, actually, that the Senate was in wasn't in recess, and that he could appoint these two members to the NRLB. I mean, even people on the left, even people like Alan Dershowitz laughed at him because there was just no ground. But obviously, the president has little or no regard for the Constitution. He's able to do just whatever he wants to do when he wants to do it. And we're just fortunate that the three branches of government oftentimes works because it's a check and balance system. And again, as they ruled in the NRLB case, they ruled that the president, what he did was unconstitutional, and those appointments could not go forward.
Yeah, and it seems to happen to this administration time after time, which leads me to what you think. I want to know what you think of John Boehner's lawsuit. Do you think that it probably has merit, but will it go anywhere? Will it go anywhere in time so that this president will still be in the White House when it finally does get adjudicated?
You know, it's interesting when you think about adjudication. You know, listen, even where you and I sit, if I am going to file a lawsuit of this magnitude and the implications, I think the Republicans have learned a great lesson from the government shutdown, that if they had not shut down the government and allowed President Obama just to go forward, I think we would have won that Republican gubernatorial race and other races across the country in that midterm election. But obviously, I don't think Boehner would be filing this lawsuit unless he did not have some kind of indication that he had a possibility for some victory. And even if it's not the definition of what we define as victory, obviously they've done some private pollings and talked to some key people to realize that they need to bring attention to the fact that this president has no regard for the Constitution, no regard for the rule of law, and this is a president that's just out of control. And I think it reminds the American people, we the people, that there are still three branches of government, and John Boehner, who's tried to work with this president at the expense of the criticism of his own party, is finally saying, I can't negotiate or trust the president to do what is in the best interest of the American people. So this is what I'm forced to do.
And you know, I think Armstrong, and I haven't seen the suit. I don't think anybody has yet. I don't think it's been filed. But this isn't about, as the media tries to spin it, as Al Sharpton and Melissa Harris Perry tried to spin it. You know, they're calling the president uppity. You know, they try to make everything racial. By the way, I mean that is insane. Because of language that McConnell used, that the president has to be reined in. They say that means he's uppity, and that's because he's black. I mean, that kind of illogical, thinking and turning everything into race. When you hear that, what goes through your mind?
I have to tell you this. It's so amazing that you mentioned the issue race and black. I have been so caught up in the president's policies and his decisions. His race, ethnicity has not even crossed my mind because I'm too busy trying to decipher his next moves with the policies and disregard for the Constitution. I think that's what most Americans care about. I mean, these are the same American people who voted him in office because they thought he was a better candidate. They thought he would be shovel-ready to create jobs. They thought they would be able to keep their affordable care. They thought affordable care would be affordable. They thought they would be able to keep their physicians. I mean, he withdrew the troops from Iraq, and look at that pot of cake that's going on there. Look at the just total chaos in the Middle East. So I think we're so busy. I even left out Benghazi and Syria. There are just so many issues that the president has made promises on, and I guess that's why his approval ratings are so dismal right now. Until most Americans who are common sense, who've transcended this thing we call race, only focus on the policies that the president is involved in every day and could care less about his race.
Right, I agree. And I sidetracked myself on that. I want to get one more question in here, Armstrong, to you. And that is the lawsuit. The media tries to sidetrack us also with, how many recess appointments this president made compared to others, how many executive orders he made compared to others. That's not the point. I think what this lawsuit's going to be about from Boehner is the selective enforcement and non-enforcement, the announced non-enforcement and changing of settled law. A president cannot do that.
You know what? I don't think most people realize how he just arbitrarily just changes the law, disregards the law, and then select which laws that you just mentioned that he wants to enforce. And if it's not there, he goes out and creates something that is totally new. And by the time we figure it out, it has already become law. And what is even sadder is that you have a Congress who just sits back and allow this president to bully them in policies and laws that is clearly goes against our constitutional, our U.S. Constitution, which is the foundation in which the rule of law is based.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and I think that's what the lawsuit is all about. Again, Armstrong, I want to congratulate you. Like I said, I've known you for a long time. I've admired you for a long time. I think back together, I think we stayed at the same kind of crummy hotel that they put us in in Denver at the convention. It's always yeah. Go ahead.
As long as we're not in the same room.
No, we weren't in the same room, but it's great. Welcome aboard Newsmax Television. We look forward to the Armstrong Williams Show coming to Newsmax TV, and we'll speak to you again soon, Armstrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care. Armstrong Williams, ladies and gentlemen, great guy, and I love talking to him about the issues of the day, and you'll get to see that, as I said, on weekends starting very soon here on Newsmax Television, the Armstrong Williams Show. He's also a Newsmax contributor and host of The Right Side with Armstrong Williams. Don't forget that. But this is so true, and to hear Sharpton and Melissa Harris Perry say that this is uppity. They're calling the president uppity. No, they're calling him a lawbreaker. They're calling him a lawbreaker. And that's what he's doing by selectively enforcing laws, by getting ruled against 9-0 on the Supreme Court time after time. He's violating the Constitution with his policies and his actions. That's what the lawsuit's about. Doesn't matter if he's purple, polka dot, black, white, yellow, or green. On the Steve Malzberg Show.
I've always seen No-No on TV, and I always wondered if it worked. And it's definitely, I can see what everybody talks about now.
It's not a razor. It's not a laser. It's No-No from Radiancy, the #1 hair removal system in the world.
It's absolutely no pain.
Can't believe the difference, Al. It's almost hair-free.
No-No gives you no hair with no pain.
Well, I saw it on TV and they said it was painless, right? I didn't really believe it, but now that I'm trying it, it feels completely painless.
And now, No-No is better than ever. Introducing the new No-No Pro. It's up to 35% more powerful. Imagine never having to shave again.
I like a close shave. Absolutely. And this is better than that. I mean, it's gone.
No more facial hair. No more embarrassment.
I've always been self-conscious of my hairline, so putting my hair back, this will be perfect for me.
And for that man in your life, there's No-No for him too.
It looks like just like you've got a fresh wax, but like you don't have to go through all the pain.
Call now and we'll send you the cordless No-No Pro in your choice of colors. Featuring an LCD display, it comes with up to 5 treatment levels. Plus, we'll include everything you need to get rid of your unwanted hair. A set of thermocon tips specially designed for your face and body. A buffer pad to exfoliate and polish your skin. Plus, act now and we'll send you the No-No travel case as a free gift. And get this, you can try No-No risk-free for not 30 days, but 60 days with our triple guarantee. If you are not 100% satisfied, return it and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping, and even pay the return postage. Try No-No risk-free today.
I need to get myself one of these right now.
Absolutely.
For your 60-day trial, go to nonopro.com or call 1-800-934-5335. That's 1-800-934-5335.
Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
and lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Long ago, there were segregationists who made a religious argument and said that they found somewhere in the Bible, for example, a justification for racial segregation in the South, and obviously that did not hold water. Now, this is perhaps a bit different. It deals with employees of the company.
All right, I know we played the same bite, folks, for Armstrong Williams, but I wanted to get it to Noah Rothman, our next guest, associate editor of HotAir.com, who on HotAir.com has documented the out-of-control reaction by the media to the Hobby Lobby announcement. So I thought I'd throw that in. That was before the decision was announced. Noah, welcome aboard, and what do you think of that comparison of segregationists in the South to Hobby Lobby?
I would say that it's absolutely crazy, with the exception that it's so widely shared. It seems that there's like a real genuine belief among legal scholars and members of the press who cover this pretty significantly. Jonathan Turley over at George Washington University is a legal professor, and NPR's Nina Totenberg, both of them within the last couple of hours came out and essentially endorsed that position, said that this really opens up the doors to basically invalidate federal employment, equal opportunity employment laws. I'm not a lawyer. I don't necessarily see it. It seems like this is a really narrowly tailored decision based on what people who read SCOTUS decisions for a living have been saying. But there's now a really big, widespread belief that this is the single worst decision to come out of the Supreme Court in a real long time, and is going to essentially, if not legalize discrimination, open up a whole lot of venues for people who want to discriminate to take this challenge to court. I frankly don't see it. But a lot of people who I believe to be slightly on the left of the political spectrum do. So who's to say?
Yeah, well, interesting. Jonathan Turley, who believes that the president is run roughshod over the Constitution, is conducting an imperial presidency. For him to come out on that side is curious. Not curious, but interesting. Totenberg and some of the others I might expect it of.
Well, Turley, if you remember, I'm sure you do, during the Bush years, he was a champion of the left. He was held up by everybody on the left because he was so explicit about the overreach of the Bush administration and how he was a real authoritative voice on that side of things. Because he's intellectually honest, he's fell down a couple of rungs on the spectrum of the left of veneration from the liberal blogosphere. But his personal leanings still tend in that direction.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I'm not a lawyer either, obviously. You know what? This is a case that's a little off the beaten path, and I'm sure you're aware of it, obviously. But a Florida judge has thrown out George Zimmerman's libel suit against NBC, and it centers around the famous or infamous edit of the call to police. Where he reported seeing Trayvon Martin, and then was asked, what is he, black, white, Hispanic? And he said he's black. And NBC apparently edited that to make it sound like he said he's black without being asked about it, which Zimmerman claimed gave the impression, and I think he has a legitimate concern, that he was concerned about his race, and that's why he targeted him, and he makes him look racist. So I'm kind of surprised, again, as a non-lawyer, that was thrown out, and it gives carte blanche to a network like NBC to selectively edit something as important as that in a trial that everyone's watching.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't had the opportunity to read the decision. It's been a pretty heavy news day. But that case, as you mentioned, was really significantly defamatory to the point where NBC let go of the producer, supposedly a local Florida producer who had produced that piece. Ran on Today, nationwide. It ran on MSNBC nationwide. There have been some people who had argued while this case was pending that because Zimmerman was not convicted of this crime, that he didn't have much standing to prove that his reputation had been damaged as a result of this broadcast. It seemed kind of flimsy to me, but again, I haven't read the decision. But if that's in there, that also wouldn't surprise me, because that was an argument that was being made at the time.
All right, the IRS. Let me ask you your opinion on, at this point, I mean, obviously the coverage that's been documented was non-existent until Paul Ryan and the IRS commissioner went at it. And then subsequently, the IRS commissioner went at it on a Monday night, I believe it was last Monday night or Tuesday night, with the House Oversight Committee members, and the arrogance that was displayed, the confrontations, the anger on the part of the congressman, the defense of the IRS commissioner by the Democrats reignited some media coverage. But do you think that that's short-lived, or do you think they're going to stick with this?
There was almost no media coverage in the wake of that night hearing. The day after, there was some blurbs about it on the broadcast networks in the morning, but there was nothing outside of the politics pages on Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post. I was searching for something because it was such a big event. The day after, when the United States Archivist said that the IRS pretty explicitly, he was moved by pangs of conscience, presumably, to say, yeah, they didn't really follow the law in this case, and I expected, sure, there would be at least a little bit more coverage of that based on his admission. And it was also still really muted. I have a piece up in commentary this month chronicling how last year, how the press corps really went out of their way to convince themselves after they came out and said, oh, this is crazy, this is Nixonian, this is the worst abuse of power we've seen in a generation, was convincing themselves, and it's this active circular sort of reinforcing of each other's narratives, that it wasn't really a big deal. And it still seems to have stuck, that they don't really believe this is a very big deal. And I actually have a piece up in Hot Air today that just centers on a conversation that had taken place on Morning Joe, in which they went back and forth and validated each other's beliefs that anybody who's pursuing this story is really on a politically motivated witch hunt, that there's just no linkage between anything that the IRS has done and the White House, and nobody's alleging that. And yet that seems to be the benchmark for at which point this needs to be taken seriously.
Right.
It's really just shocking how they've been able to devalue what's really obviously very some real discrimination being going on at the IRS, because it doesn't reach the highest elements of power in the United States.
They changed the narrative, like they did with the lawsuit and the case against Obama, by saying, well, look at all the executive orders that Clinton and Bush. It's not about executive orders. It's not about recess appointments. It's about selective enforcement of the law, and I'm sure that's what the suit will talk about. I haven't seen it yet, but they changed the narrative to make it fit their agenda.
Right, yeah, precisely. And there's this again, sort of self-reinforcing peer pressure that goes on in the press. The highest paid, most visible members of the commentary and reporting community sort of denigrate and look down on individuals who are reporting on or investigating stories that are inconvenient for the White House. Not even damaging, but inconvenient.
I know, that is scary. That is scary. Noah, appreciate it. Up against the clock here. Always great to talk to you. We'll check you out at hotair.com. Noah Rothman, associate editor over there. Thank you, sir. All right, folks, we're coming back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't go away.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh, yes. And that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
Look how beautiful it is.
Honey, we need to talk.
We do. I took the trash out.
I know, and thank you so much for that. I think we should get a Medicare supplement insurance plan.
Right now?
Whether you're new to Medicare or not, you may know it only covers about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. It's up to you to pay the difference. So think about an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare Supplement Insurance plans, they help cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay.
I did a little research. With a Medicare supplement plan, you'll be able to stay with your doctor.
Oh, you know, I love that guy.
These types of plans let you visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients, and there are no networks.
Is this a one-size-fits-all kind of thing?
No, there are lots of plan options. It all depends on what we need and how much we want to spend.
Call now to request your free decision guide. It could help you find an AARP Medicare supplement plan that's right for you.
What happens when we travel?
The plans go with us, anywhere in the country.
I like that.
You know what else? United Healthcare Insurance Company has years and years of experience. What do you say?
I'm in.
Join the millions already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP. Remember, all Medicare supplement plans help cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could really save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. You'll be able to choose your own doctor or hospital as long as they accept Medicare patients. And with these plans, there could be low or no copays.
You do your push-ups today?
Prepare to be amazed.
Don't wait. Call today to request your free decision guide and find the AARP Medicare supplement plan to go the distance with you. Go long.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. North Korea announced it is preparing to try 2 American tourists today. The state-run Korean Central News Agency says Matthew Miller and Jeffrey Fowle committed hostile acts against the state. Officials remain unclear as to what exactly the 2 Americans did or how they could be punished. The United States Department strongly discourages American citizens from visiting North Korea. And President Obama met with Chilean President Michelle Bachelet today. The two discussed construction plans for a solar power plant in Chile. Obama says this will be collaborating on clean energy solutions to meet the country's needs. The two leaders also discussed regional security and other issues. Chile is one of the non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council this year. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, so much going on a day like today with the Supreme Court decisions, with the president saying that he will do whatever he can, executive order-wise, on immigration. We have, of course, the Israeli teenagers found north of Hebron in the West Bank, found dead, the kidnapped Israeli teenagers. So lots happening, lots going on. We're going to continue along those lines. We're going to have the attorney for Hobby Lobby in the next segment. You're not going to want to miss that exclusive interview right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Alan Dershowitz kicking off the next hour with his take on these cases and what is going on in Israel and what Israel might do to retaliate. But I don't want to get lost. You know, sometimes things get lost, they fall through the cracks, and we're fortunate enough to have a segment here where I could present some of that to you. And I want you to watch Christina Vanden Heuvel and Bill Kristol went at it a little bit. Of course, Vanden Heuvel started it on I guess it was ABC's This Week yesterday, talking about Iraq and basically attacking Bill Kristol. And here's how that went.
This country should not go back to war. We don't need armchair warriors. And if you feel so strongly, you should, with all due respect, enlist in the Iraqi army.
That's a very cute line, Katrina.
No, but it's real.
A million
look at the displaced.
Thousands of people being killed. Can I just make a point?
A million Iraqis have been displaced. You read that story, humanitarian aid for what we have done to that country is a crime.
We have done to that country? What we did to that country. Yeah, let me respond.
Yeah, let him respond, and he does respond. And I got to tell you, Christina Vanden Heuvel has been on that show and been in the media for decades, okay? And it's my opinion that she is as far to the left, as almost as far to the left as you could possibly go. I mean, she is out there. She is radical in her views. Well, then again, we have a president kind of that same way as well, in the minds of many. Okay, here's the comeback, the rest of it, from Bill Kristol.
The President of the United States, President Obama, said at the end of 2011, we have a stable and peaceful Iraq, thanks to the sacrifices mostly of American soldiers and Marines, which we did. President Bush made mistakes. He was punished for those mistakes electorally, as he should have been in 2006 and perhaps in 2008. He also had the courage to order the surge in 2007, which made up for those mistakes and left things peaceful. This president pulled out of Iraq in 2011. He let the Syrian civil war explode, and now we have a terrible situation.
Okay, that is absolutely true. And I got to tell you, leftists like Vanden Heuvel, and I don't know her particular take, I can't quote you chapter and verse of what she has said in the past about Hugo Chavez, or what she has said in the past about Fidel Castro, or what she has said in the past about other dictatorial thugs. But a lot of them on the left, they kind of have an affinity for, an affection for these left-wing, well, I won't even call them left-wing, these radical dictators, these thugs like Castro, like Chavez. So she would rather, first of all, we had a security interest going into Iraq. I'm not going to go there again. But we know that Saddam Hussein gassed his own people. We know about the torture chambers. We know about the dead Iraqis. We know about the middle of the night knocks on the door and people disappearing into dungeons and prisons. None of that seems to bother Vanden Heuvel, okay? Only we created a mess for the Iraqi people because they were living in such perfect harmony with such a wonderful leader before we went in. Now, we went in not for that. We went in because of our security. That's another story. But what is it about the people on the left like her who just brush over the dictatorial, thuggish dealings of dictatorial thugs? That's what I want to know. All right, folks, we'll be back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show. But first, here's Dr. Chauncey Crandall with How to Eat Like a Caveman.
Heart disease is the biggest killer disease in America, and this doesn't surprise me. We are addicted to starches, sugars, fatty meats, and salt. People who live in countries with little heart disease eat very differently. One way some people stay heart healthy is by following what is known as the caveman or Stonehenge diet, so named because of its similarity to the way our prehistoric ancestors ate. People who follow this type of diet live off local fruits and root vegetables and get their protein mostly from fish and wild game they shoot themselves. Now, since most of us don't hunt or fish for all our protein, here are some simple tips on how you can start to eat like a caveman, modern day style. First, fill up on fruits and vegetables. Eat them first and you'll be less hungry. Feast on fish, which is rich in nutrients but not in calories. Choose fatty fish like mackerel, herring, sardines, and salmon, which are rich in heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Get out and go for a walk. Remember, our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, so they didn't spend their time sitting in front of a TV or computer all day. If you live more like a caveman or a cave woman, your heart will love you for it. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thank you for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick, free online quiz at www.
Do you own mutual funds? You may be paying fees and costs of up to 5% and not even know it. Fisher Investments isn't a mutual fund, and we don't have hidden fees. Do you own an annuity? Your broker may have made a commission of 8% or more when he sold it to you. Are you sure he had your best interests in mind? At Fisher Investments, we're not brokers, and we don't earn commissions on trades or by selling you products. With our model, as your portfolio grows, we grow.
To learn more about the Fisher Investments difference, call the number on your screen now. We'll send you our free DVD, Investing Secrets for 2014, and our special report, The 8 Biggest Mistakes Investors Make. Plus, the first 100 callers get a free 1-year subscription to Fisher Investments Stock Market Outlook, with insights from our company founder and respected market forecaster, Ken Fisher. Be prepared in 2014. Call now, 1-800-575-0066, 1-800-575-0066.
Imagine being able to clear your breakouts fast with a revolutionary new acne treatment that's actually good for your skin. Announcing all-new Proactive Plus, the combination of acne medicine plus ultra-perfecting skincare. Television star Kristen Ritter calls it a miracle.
I love the new Proactive Plus. It's fighting all my breakouts, and my skin is like porcelain.
The results are astonishing. Your skin is not only clear, but smooth and sexy. It's our smartest, fastest, most effective solution ever. And now, new skincare is in every step to balance acne-prone skin with needed hydration and more.
I have to tell you, this is different.
Just look at my before and after pictures. That doesn't lie.
So grab your phone and dial the number on your screen now, because today shipping is free. And get 3 free gifts, a $96 value for just $29.95. Call now.
You will love your skin.
Hi, my name is John Bachman. I'm 34 years old, and I'm an anchor at Newsmax TV, and there's no place else I'd rather be. There is so much gloom and doom out there right now. People want to talk about problems, but that's changing. The conversation is changing. People want to talk now about solutions, and that is what Newsmax offers. I mean, if there's somebody who is going to contribute something to the conversation, we're going to try to talk to them.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
There are now a group of women of an indeterminate size who no longer have access to free contraceptive coverage simply because of some religious views that are held not by them necessarily, but by their bosses. We disagree, and the constitutional lawyer in the Oval Office disagrees with that conclusion from the court. And that's why we, primarily because he's concerned about the impact that it could have on the health of those women.
All right, folks, there's your White House take on the Supreme Court decision today. And here we go again. Joining us now, I'm very happy to say, is Adele Keim, legal counsel for the Beckett Fund and attorney for the Green family in the Hobby Lobby case. Congratulations, Adele.
Hey, thanks for the congrats. We're thrilled. This is a great day for religious liberty.
It really is, and what a landmark case to be involved in. So congratulations to you personally as well, and the Beckett Fund, which has done such great work. You know, this argument, I don't know if you were on the whole time. We just played the president's spokesman. Again, you know, the president's concerned for the health of these women. I mean, you know, I had an attorney on in the first segment, and this is how crazy it gets, and this is what they'd have to be talking about to be concerned for the health of these women. She compared it to a blood transfusion. What if another religion doesn't believe in blood transfusions and they own a business? Are they not going to get? I said, you're comparing blood transfusions to an abortion pill or a contraceptive pill? I can't even begin to say how shallow the argument is that these poor women now will not have access to these pills, as if they can't walk to the drugstore and get them.
You know, absolutely. One of the government's main arguments in this case is that they have been the defenders of the Greens' employees. But I want to tell you, the government marched up to the Supreme Court and said that the Greens should just drop all health insurance for all of its employees and not pay them a dime more in compensation, and that would be a perfectly legal, acceptable alternative for the Greens. Do you know what the Greens said to that? They said, no way. We would never drop our employees from health insurance without compensating them more. And, you know, they fought all the way to the Supreme Court to avoid dropping them at all because why? Because the Greens know they have single moms on their plans. They have parents with sick kids. They have employees battling cancer. They didn't want to leave those people out in the cold. Now, listen, the government in the Greens and the Hans case, let's not get overheated. They're only talking about a handful of emergency contraceptives, those very few contraceptives that may act by destroying a human embryo. We know this. The FDA admits it. The government doesn't dispute that the drugs can kill a newly created human life. The Greens and the Hans didn't want to supply those drugs, and the Supreme Court said they didn't have to. In another case about blood transfusions or these other wild hypotheticals that the other side has been reaching, the government might be able to show that it had some kind of compelling interest, but we know they don't have a compelling interest here because they've already exempted plans covering almost 100 million Americans from the contraceptive mandate to keep the president's political promise that you can keep the health plan you have. What the justices did today was right, and it was right down the line. They did exactly what they needed to do. They applied the law carefully, narrowly, in a balanced way. That's how religious liberty works in this country.
But Adele,
this is a great day.
I'm fascinated by what you just said because I got to confess I wasn't aware of that. So the government said that if a way around this, or they argued this in the case, you're telling me in the case, they said that it would be perfectly legal for Hobby Lobby to drop all health insurance and not compensate the employees for then having to go out and buy their own or pay for their full amount of their own policy. And that was an alternative that the government suggested. Is that what you're saying?
Solicitor General Donald Verrilli stood before the 9 justices of the Supreme Court and said The Greens are not burdened because they could just drop all health insurance and pay a fine.
So that kind of puts a hole in their little argument that, you know, what would these poor women do when they were willing to sacrifice all health insurance for all poor women and men?
It was tough to sit quietly and listen to that argument be made.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, so and let me give you another one here, and educate me here. There is no provision for, and again, this was brought up by the same female attorney that I had on in the previous hour. You know, there's no provision. I brought this up in response to her. There's no provision for condom coverage for men or birth control for men. I understand women have the babies, but men use birth control. Men buy condoms. And she said, well, men have the option of a covered vasectomy. And I said, you're comparing a vasectomy? I said, if you want to go down that avenue, I would assume a hysterectomy is covered for women, but that's a ridiculous analogy.
Listen, it doesn't, you know, it misses the point completely because the Hans and the Greens already cover the pill and other kinds of contraceptives that are used by the overwhelming majority of women in America. Look, let's get back to the reality of this case. In this case, the government is trying to ram its contraceptive mandate down the throats of the Greens and the Hans. The Supreme Court stood up and said, no, you can't do that. But you know something? The government has not stood down from its war on the nuns. It continues to insist that the Little Sisters of the Poor and Mother Angelica and her Catholic TV station, Eternal Word, and the bishops and all kinds of other people, the charities they run, have to turn their health plans into a conduit for the government's contraceptive delivery system. I think the handwriting's on the wall for that position. Look, the court said today that when the government has a less restrictive alternative, it has to use it. And the court said paying for these drugs itself, the government has a less restrictive alternative if it just provides these drugs itself. You know what? The government has offered a half-baked shell game of an accommodation for religious nonprofits, but it has insisted in those cases that it should not have to pay for these contraceptives itself. It should still be able to commandeer somebody else's health plan and make them or their insurance company pay for it. I think the writing's on the wall with this decision for the government's argument that it can just force Americans, whether they're companies, for-profits, or nonprofits, to do its bidding when they have a religious objection. The court said today, when the government can deliver the drugs, the government has to deliver the drugs.
Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely, I think, absolutely true. I think if anybody had a bet, and they had a bet that which case would go the government's way, and if one was going to go the government's way and one was going to go the way of the plaintiff, certainly I think the Little Sisters of the Poor and people who fit that category had a better chance of winning. But now that you guys won, I don't see how they could not win. Right?
We certainly hope the Supreme Court and the other courts of appeals see it your way.
Anyway, yeah. Now let me ask you another question about paying, because the court mentioned something that, as you just alluded to, but I'm a little confused, and I want to get this straight too. That the government would pay for the pill. So does that mean now that we're all going to be paying for these abortion pills, or these pills that Hobby Lobby did not want to provide for, or is Hobby Lobby just, you know, do these women have to go get it on their own? How's that going to work?
Well, the government might have to. So let's step back for a minute.
Yeah.
Look, for decades, the government has had a program called Title IX, where they spend last year, I think it was roughly $300 million of federal tax money to provide contraceptives for free or at no cost to American women. They do this through Planned Parenthood clinics. They do this through county health clinics across the country. They have a whole network of distributors who are their voluntary partners who say, yes, government, I opt in. You will give me money. I will make sure these drugs get out to the women who need them. That's the kind of program that the plaintiffs in all of these cases, for-profit and non-profit, have pointed to and said, look, the government has other ways of getting these drugs and devices out to American women. It can just add more funds to that program or just direct women to that program. So that's the kind of alternative that's less restrictive in these cases. What they can't do is coerce religious people against their conscience. When they have a clearly available alternative, like the existing Title IX program or some kind of new government program they might want to create, they can't force religious objectors. They can't to knuckle under. So that's what the court.
Gotcha.
I think that's the writing on the wall. The court, to be clear, the court was careful to say, look, we're not commenting on the not-for-profit cases; those aren't before us. So, but I think the writing's on the wall.
One more for you. You've been very generous with your time, Adele, and that is the bakeries, the photography people who have lost their jobs or who have been forced to now, they've been fined or with the threat of closing down, that they have to bake a cake for a gay wedding or take pictures of a gay wedding or a gay ceremony. How does this case apply to those kinds of cases?
Sure. So this case was narrow. It was balanced. And you know what? Under our law, all religious liberty cases are like that. This case said, look, just because the government's position in this case was pretty extreme, once you incorporate, you wave goodbye to your constitutional rights of free exercise of religion. That was the government's position in this case. I'm very, very pleased to say that 5 justices of the Supreme Court rejected that argument and said, no, just because you incorporate, just because you own a family business, what they used was closely held business was the term they used.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you lose your constitutional right to exercise your religion. You know, so the same will be true of any other business owner. But in all religious liberty cases, religious liberty is a balanced right. So the government can always come into court and say, look, we have a compelling interest, for example, in eradicating racial discrimination, and so therefore we can't make an exception for this or that business owner. That's just, the problem is, for the contraceptive mandate cases, they couldn't meet that because of the huge exemptions we've already talked about. So it was a careful, it was a balanced decision, and it was a decision that pushed back. And by the way, on that point, that threshold issue of whether a for-profit company could ever exercise religion, you had 5 justices saying they can, 2 justices saying they can't, and 2 justices, Breyer and Kagan, definitely on the liberal wing of the court, saying, look, we take no position on that. We're not going to weigh in. And they've quite clearly, I think, had in view the kosher butcher and the Torah publisher and the halal grocer, who you know, everybody can kind of agree. Wow, we see that these business owners are exercising religion.
There you go.
So there you go.
Yeah, no, very good. Adele, you explained it all so perfectly. I thank you, and again, congratulations.
Thanks so much. You have a great day.
You too, Adele Keim, ladies and gentlemen. All right, when we come back, it's Give Me 5, and you're not going to want to miss it. I promise you that. On the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
Hi, I'm Mike Reagan. If you're a senior or baby boomer, you may be missing out on some important information. Tens of millions of boomers are set to retire, yet many don't know that how you file your Social Security can dramatically change the amount of money you collect. That's why Newsmax created a special report offering you the best strategies to maximize your Social Security benefits. For example, this report reveals a weird trick that could help you add up to $152,000 to your Social Security payouts. It also shows how some qualifying recipients can add up to $1,000 to their monthly payments. To get your copy with our free offer, along with 7 additional money-making booklets, simply go online. Newsmax says this report is a critical resource for anyone over the age of 50. So go to our website today and find out if you qualify to add extra money to your Social Security. Remember, it's your money. You deserve the most back in your retirement.
Tired of mops that can't reach the dirt? Do you hate wringing out mops with your bare hands?
Oh, no!
Is your mop a dirty, disgusting mess? Well, no more. It's time to meet the incredible Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System, the only mop and bucket that spins the dirt away. The mop head spins to pick up the most dirt, gets into corners and around toilet bowls. The super absorbent head picks up 10 times its weight in dirty, disgusting liquid, traps it inside, and doesn't drip. To clean it, just put it in the bucket, and like magic, it just spins the dirt away. And you will never touch dirty, disgusting mop water again. But the magic of the Spin Mop keeps on coming. The Hurricane 360 Spin Mop picks up dust and dirt at the same time. And it works on any hard surface and will never scratch or leave streaks. Its amazing bucket just can't be beat. Just dunk and spin. There's nothing else like it, guaranteed. No more touching dirty, disgusting mops, and no more getting on your hands and knees. Get the only mop that features spinning action and the revolutionary spinning bucket that cuts your cleaning time in half. Get the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System for just 2 payments of $19.99. You'll also get a Sticky Buddy, the reusable sticky roller that picks up pet hair and lint and washes clean in seconds. You can take advantage of our limited time 2-for-1 pick it up special and get a second Spin Mop set. Just pay additional shipping and fee. You get it all: 2 spin mops, 2 mop heads, 2 revolutionary spinning buckets, and 2 sticky buddies for just 2 easy payments of $19.99. And we'll upgrade you to free priority handling. So don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-611-4362. That's 1-800-611-4362 to get your Hurricane Spin Mop double offer. So hurry and call now at 1-800-611-4362. That's 1-800-611-4362.
Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 58 years old. 8 years into the disease was when all the light went out.
For me, it was heart-wrenching.
Looking into the eyes of somebody with Alzheimer's, sometimes you just don't see the person's soul is like gone.
And it takes a toll on everyone. I mean, it's a depressing disease to watch unfold before your eyes.
She actually thought those of us who were caring for her and who loved her most were her worst enemies.
More and more responsibilities fell on my shoulders.
This disease just ravages a family.
It changes your life.
The magnitude of it is indescribable. My mother taught me to be in the moment.
We have to live in the moment with them.
And I'm going to be with that person right now in this moment, wherever she is.
Now is the moment. If we work together, we can stop this epidemic.
Contact Bright Focus and learn more.
So we take these actions, and then now Republicans are mad at me for taking these actions. They're not doing anything, and then they're mad that I'm doing something. I'm not sure which of the things I've done they find most offensive. But they've decided they're going to sue me for doing my job. I mean, I might have said in the heat of the moment during one of these debates, I want to raise the minimum wage, so sue me when I do. But I didn't think they were going to take it literally. We can't afford to wait for Congress right now. That's why I'm going ahead and moving ahead without them wherever I can.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to Give Me Five, ladies and gentlemen. Against that backdrop of an out-of-control president who decides which parts of laws he will enforce and which parts he will not enforce, which is really the crux of the lawsuit, not all this other nonsense. Al Sharpton and Melissa Harris Perry were at it on MSNBC. Watch.
One day after Speaker Boehner compared President Obama to a monarch or king, GOP Senator Mitch McConnell attacked the president using similar language.
The imperial President Obama decided he knew more than we did. I think the only thing that'll humble Barack Obama is the American people giving us a Republican Senate.
The president needs to be humbled. He's acting like a king. This is ugly stuff.
Yeah, and ugly means racist. And by the way, hey, Al, what's a monarch? You mean monarch? Okay, that's what I thought. Oh, yeah, ugly stuff, racist stuff. Got to be racist, because he's a white man, after all, who can't stand a black man in the White House. More.
I'm not saying these are all bad people. They're not. When I'm sitting there just talking to them about family, we get along just fine. Many of them will acknowledge when I talk to them, yeah, I know, I wish we could do something more, but I can't, but they can't be too friendly towards me because they'd be run out of time by the Tea Party.
Yeah, Republicans come up to Barack Obama and say, psst, psst, I like you. I wish I could do something more, but I'm afraid I'll be run out of town. Yeah, the line is forming. More.
I had not heard the McConnell language about humbling the president previously, and I think my jaw might have hit the table here when I heard that. I don't mean to rev things up, but it really does sound as though he basically called the president now, uppity. Right. Like that in the idea that he needs to
get in his place.
That's right, and that he needs to be humbled and that the American people should do so.
Yes, humbled means uppity. And uppity means uppity black man, and humbled is ugly stuff, and it's racist. And this is all racist because you have a president who, even according to Jonathan Turley, who voted for Obama, has abused his authority. The Supreme Court 12 times has said 9-0. He's abused his authority. Today we had Supreme Court rulings that said they've abused their authority. And to try to humble this man as a description for what they need to do through the lawsuit, that's racist because there's no basis for any of this. None. He's just going along being president. Next.
John Boehner is trying this because he doesn't want something worse to happen. And from his point of view, the worst thing would be outright impeachment of the president. The problem is because he knows that nothing would turn out the Democratic base more than if the Republicans made overt impeachment moves. But the problem is this move itself is already doing far more to ignite the Democratic base, I think, than Boehner ever expected.
Boehner would never, first of all, impeachment can't move forward if Boehner says no. That's number one. They're never going to try impeachment with a Democrat Senate. So his whole premise here is flawed. And this is motivating the base? We'll see. More.
But what Boehner has done in this moment is actually to turn everyone away from what had been a bad news cycle for the president towards a good news cycle, because Americans recognize that this is a duly elected twice president and that it is reasonable to disagree with him, but it is not reasonable to behave as though he is not operating with the will of the American people.
He's operating with the will of the American people, 65% of whom say the next president should have different policies? His approval ratings are in the toilet? Come on, Melissa, you could do better.
I was having trouble getting out of bed in the morning because my back hurt so bad.
The Sleep Number bed conforms to you. Wake up in the morning with no back pain.
Do you toss and turn, wake up with back pain? If so, call us now. You'll learn how the Sleep Number bed helps relieve back pain by allowing you to adjust the firmness and support to conform to your body for a more proper spinal alignment. Just look at this research. 93% of participants experienced back pain relief. Plus, it's a great value because it costs about the same as an innerspring, yet lasts twice as long. So if you want to sleep better or find relief for your bad back, call now.
Call 1-800-976-7120 for your free information kit with brochure, price list, and models. Call now and we'll include a free $50 savings card. Call 1-800-976-7120 now for your free information and this free $50 savings card. Call now.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS? Are you struggling to make ends meet because you owe more in taxes than you can afford to pay?
The IRS is relentless and will collect from you. They can garnish your wages or place a levy on your bank account. You have rights, and you can stop them by calling the tax resolvers.
If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, our qualified CPAs, tax negotiators, and support staff know the law and know how to get your situation under control legally and permanently.
Call the number on your screen now, and we will contact the IRS on your behalf. Help you end wage garnishment, stop collection calls, remove tax liens, resolve tax penalties, and reduce the amount you owe if you qualify.
It's a free call and a free consultation, but we can only help if you pick up the phone and dial the number below.
You wouldn't fix your car without going to a mechanic, so why face the IRS without an experienced company that can help you?
If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, call now and find out how we can help you resolve your IRS problems.
Call the tax resolvers at 800-489-3480.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Just a few minutes ago, President Obama officially nominated former Procter & Gamble CEO Robert McDonald to serve as the new VA secretary. Before that, President Obama spoke from the Rose Garden about John Boehner's decision for Congress not to vote on immigration reform this year. This is what the president had to say.
Their argument seems to be that because the system's broken, we shouldn't make an effort to fix it. It makes no sense.
President Obama went on to say his latest move by the House Speaker and Republican is just politics as usual. Obama says he plans to fix immigration on his own without Congress. And public sector unions took a hit from the Supreme Court today. In a 5-4 split decision, the court ruled that public sector unions cannot collect fees from non-union home healthcare workers. Justices cited the practice violates the First Amendment rights of workers who don't agree with union leadership. The decision does not affect workers in the private sector. And another ruling revisits a key component of the Affordable Care Act. The Supreme Court ruled that religious corporations cannot be forced to cover contraception for their employees. This decision was also split 5-4 and strikes a blow to the ACA's employer healthcare insurance mandate. More than 50 companies, including Hobby Lobby, filed lawsuits saying mandates violated their religious freedom. And General Motors announces it's prepared to pay billions of dollars to crash victims who drove their cars. Victims must be able to prove their crash was a result of ignition switch error. GM says it will pay whatever it costs. The company is trying to curb its legal liabilities. Lawyers say the connected deaths and injuries could number in the hundreds. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, who better to break down the Supreme Court decisions today and to weigh in on the horrific find in Israel today and what Israel might do in response than Alan Dershowitz, Newsmax contributor, author, and, of course, professor of law at Harvard. He'll be here right off the top of the hour. Stay where you are. And then the co-host of Steele and Unger on Sirius XM Radio, Rick Unger, will join me to share his take on the Supreme Court rulings today. Benjamin Shapiro, editor-in-chief at Truth Revolt and editor-at-large of Breitbart News. He has a brand new one, The People versus Barack Obama. We'll talk to him about that. You got that. You got much more. Give me 5 on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back. Joining us now is a Newsmax contributor, author, and professor of law at Harvard Law School, the one and only Alan Dershowitz. Hello, Alan.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I want to thank you. I know you've been traveling, and I know you must be exhausted, and I thank you very much for doing this.
I appreciate that. I just came back from Israel, where I spent some time with the Prime Minister talking about these 3 kidnapped youngsters who were just found murdered today. So I'm looking forward to talking about that at some point.
Well, I'd like to start with that, if you don't mind, actually. I know that the president has condemned it as a senseless act of terror. He's also urged, all sides to refrain from anything inflammatory. But, of course, this is an administration that welcomed, in many instances, or many respects, I should say, the union of the government between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, continuing the financial commitment to the government and welcoming talks with that government. So how does the United States progress from here? I didn't hear the president say he's going to stop all support of a government that contains Hamas.
But remember, too, this is a bipartisan mistake. The Bush administration is what forced the election that resulted in Hamas winning. You know, Israel and most countries in the area were not in favor of having an election at that point because they anticipated the possibility that Hamas would use an election to win and then turn against the Palestinian Authority, as they did, murdering many of their members in Gaza and taking it over in a coup. So there's fault on both sides for trying to strengthen Hamas. I have no doubt that the people who murdered these 16-year-old and 19-year-old, including one American, were Hamas members. We don't know whether they did it under instructions from the Hamas leadership, but Hamas is responsible. They cheered it. Can you imagine cheering the murder of 16-year-old children? But that's what Hamas does. When I was in Israel, I was shown the tunnels that Hamas digs under Gaza, and the tunnel the Israelis recently found exited at a point just yards away from a kindergarten with 57 Jewish kids in it, and their goal was to kill or kidnap these 57 toddlers and kids. That's who Hamas is, and there ought to be no mistake about that. And they have multiple tunnels that they use only for terrorism. They're not used for transporting goods or anything. They're just terrorist tunnels designed to allow them to come in behind Israeli lines, close to Israeli kibbutzim and kindergartens, and to capture or kill as many babies and children as they can. How do you make peace with an organization that's committed to the destruction of Israel? And how do you make peace with the Palestinian Authority that is now joined together with Hamas in a unitary government? It would be as if the United States joined in with, Al-Qaeda that would never happen. But the Palestinian Authority has joined with Hamas.
What do you think? What do you think the Israeli response should be?
Well, very tough. I think my own personal view is they ought to go into Gaza and close the tunnels, because these tunnels will one day produce a terrible catastrophe with dozens and dozens of Israeli children kidnapped or captured. And since this was a kidnapping, this provides a justification. Now, it's very hard to bomb the tunnels because Hamas places the entrance to the tunnels in mosques, in kindergartens, underneath hospitals, so Israel can't bomb them. Of course, Hamas would not hesitate to bomb them if the shoe were on the other foot, but Israel doesn't do that. But they could send in ground troops to close up the tunnels. They have to send Hamas a message that this kind of activity will not be tolerated. You know, the New York Times, to its eternal discredit, today had a piece essentially comparing morally the kidnapping of these kids. Now, it was done before they were announced to be dead, but many people believed that they had been murdered. But the New York Times, only the New York Times could do this, found a moral equivalency between these three kids who were kidnapped and murdered and Palestinians who were rock throwers and people who threw Molotov cocktails at soldiers, and the soldiers responded. Remember, the soldiers are 18-year-old kids, too.
Right.
Responded, and a Palestinian was killed. There's no comparison between by accidentally killing somebody who throws a gun, a bomb, or a rock at you, and deliberately finding three youngsters and murdering them in cold blood.
Right. I don't even think that they've established. Alan, I don't even think that they've. I could be wrong. Maybe you know more. That they've established for sure. I don't think they have that that bullet that killed that Palestinian youth came from an Israeli soldier.
You never know that, because there's always exchanges of fire, and we know there was one case in the past, the Al-Dura case, where everybody in the world blamed the killing of this young 14-year-old or so on Israel, and then forensic tests proved that it was a bullet that came from the Palestinians that killed one of their own civilians. Remember that the Palestinian terrorists hide behind civilians all the time.
Yep.
They try to draw fire. They want their civilians to be killed. That's the difference. Otherwise, you know, in Gaza, what they do is they build shelters, but they don't allow any of the civilians into the shelters. Only the terrorists get to use the shelters. Whereas in Israel, only the civilians get to use the shelters. So it's not surprising that you have higher rates of civilian casualties among Hamas than you do among the Israelis.
Right. Anything that could be blamed on Israel. One more for you before, and you and I could differ on, you know, George Bush and that administration. And I mean, I just don't see that the Bush administration would ever have said we're going to support with money a government that includes Hamas, as the Obama administration has been doing. So going forward, do you think it would behoove all parties for the Obama administration to say no more, either kick out Hamas or we're going to cut off aid?
Well, first of all, it would be against the law to provide aid to a government that included Hamas. It's a criminal act to do anything under American law to support a group that's on the terrorist list, and Hamas is on the terrorist list. So any provision of aid to Hamas is a violation of a criminal statute, and I would think that Congress will get even tougher and tie the hands of the president on this, as well they should. You cannot encourage terrorism. You cannot do anything to facilitate terrorism. And Hamas has not renounced terrorism. It has not renounced its desire to destroy the nation state of the Jewish people. And, you know, it's an organization that proudly pronounces its anti-Semitism. One of the heads of the organization and recently said that, you know, their goal is to kill Jews all over the world, and to blow up synagogues, and they do. And you can't support an organization like that.
Alan, let's move on to Hobby Lobby. What's your take on the 5-4 decision today?
A monumentally insignificant case. Why is it insignificant? First of all, it was not a constitutional decision. It was a construction of a statute. Second, the effect will be that not a single woman will be denied contraceptive care or birth control care. The opinion made it clear that there are alternatives by which the women can get adequate contraceptive care and won't be burdened in any way. It was a decision that tried hard to balance freedom of religion against the needs of the government. If if the majority doesn't like it, they can change it tomorrow because it's not a constitutional decision. You can get Congress to change it and eliminate this. Congress won't, though, because I think Congress does support freedom of religion. I met the people from Hobby Lobby. They're very decent people. I disagree with their views, but who am I to tell them that they're wrong about their religious views? They regard these 4 or 5 methods of contraception as abortion and as murder, and they just don't want to be part of it. I don't blame them for that, especially since there are alternatives. And the Supreme Court made it clear, this is not as if they would refuse to vaccinate their employees, because vaccination protects all of us. This is something that can easily be balanced, and it's a win-win. We can get a result where the women themselves get all the contraceptive treatment that they need and care and preventive care that they need without requiring very religious people to compromise their religious beliefs. It's a win-win, and I think 10 years from now or 5 years from now, nobody will remember this decision. It will not be significant because it wasn't a constitutional decision.
Interesting. Okay, there was also another decision today, also 5-4,
Right.
where the court ruled against unions in a home health care worker case. The home health care workers will not be required to join a union that they don't agree with and don't want to join. And they also, I believe the court also reserved the right to come back or said we might expand this if other cases come before us.
Yeah, basically, again, it's a hard question because you have people who are being required today to pay money to unions which express speech and points of view which they disagree with. So the two cases are very parallel in many ways, and of course Justice Alito wrote both of them, and he tried in both cases to strike an appropriate balance. Now, do I think that Alito may have been influenced by the fact that he's not particularly pro-union, and he himself is probably not pro-choice? Sure, he's probably influenced by that. But the decisions themselves strike a balance in the union case between free speech. You're compelling somebody to pay for speech that he disagrees with. And that raises some fundamental questions. And what they did is they just construed the statute narrowly to say that it exempts partial government workers like home health care workers. So, again, not a particularly dramatic decision. Of course, it's part of the process of making unions weaker, unfortunately, in this country, and I'm a supporter of unions. So it has a negative result. But you have to decide these cases on principles, not on which side is being heard. And I really do think that we're seeing less and less principled decisions being made by the Supreme Court, and more, which side are you on? Are you a liberal or a conservative? Do you like unions? Don't you like unions? Do you support abortion? Do you support the right to life? And that's not the way Supreme Court decisions ought to be decided.
Alan, again, I thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Go get some rest, and I look forward to our next chat, sir.
Always a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure. All right, Alan Dershowitz, ladies and gentlemen, Newsmax contributor, author, and, of course, professor of law at Harvard Law School. Very interesting. Well, we're going to talk about what Alan had to say and get the opinion of one Rick Unger, who will join us here on, I guess, what do you call it, abbreviated Malzberg panel, a miniature Malzberg panel? I don't know what you want to call it. You call it what you will. We're coming back with it right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
Meet John and Nancy. Like many people, John and Nancy have spent their whole lives working hard, saving their money and investing wisely, knowing that it would pay off in the end. But the reality is, today's world is not the same as it was. John and Nancy's stocks have taken them on a serious roller coaster ride, and it's all but destroyed their retirement funds. Their house is not even close to being worth what they paid, and to boot, their middle-class paychecks no longer cover their costs. All that hard work and smart investing has gotten them nowhere. In fact, they are no longer thinking about when they will retire, they're wondering if they'll retire. Then one day, John and Nancy heard about a man named Tom Hutchison, a veteran of Wall Street for over 2 decades. Tom noticed that the wealthy invested differently than normal people, and their methods seemed to be a secret they didn't want to share. So Tom left his job, compiled the strategies, and published them in the controversial book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns. John and Nancy immediately picked up a copy, began investing, and never looked back. Thanks to Powerful Secrets, John and Nancy now have investments that pay up to 20% a year. They learned about unique tax-advantaged investments, and their favorite chapter revealed a strategy that anyone can use to turn $50,000 into $1 million. Now, John and Nancy have control of their financial future in this new reality, and they have peace of mind about their investments that they never had before. Best of all, they are back on track to a secure retirement. To get your free copy of the book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns, simply visit www.myfinancialage.org.
Hart, what's going on? I'm leaving. Why? What did I do? Not enough. The pressure's too much. I quit. I get it. I can do better. Just please, don't leave.
Don't let your heart quit on you. Get your uncontrolled high blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, joining us now, as promised, is the co-host of Steele and Unger on Sirius XM Radio, Saturdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, if I'm not mistaken. Rick Unger is here. Hello,
hey,
sir.
Always good to see you.
Always love having
big
you here.
Big day today?
Very big day today. News breaking out all over the place, as they say. Okay, so you just heard Alan Dershowitz say this is a monumentally insignificant case, and in 10 years, no one will remember it. You wrote a great piece at Forbes.com that the founding father, or at least the headline, founding fathers spinning in their graves over this decision.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I obviously don't entirely agree with Alan. I actually take some of his points. As a religious freedom issue, I think he's right. And I will tell you at the outset, I'm all for being as expansive as we can humanly be when it comes to individuals' religious freedoms. My problem is if you review what the founders felt about corporations, and we have volumes to tell us where they stood on it, then you do begin to see that this did have a constitutional impact, because what this decision did, even though they tried very hard to cast it as narrowly as they humanly could, it did give human rights. Only humans can have beliefs, feelings, all the emotions, all those things. It gave it to a corporation, which is truly nothing more than a legal fiction, a piece of paper that is sitting in a file cabinet in a Secretary of State's office in some state. That, to me, not only violates everything in our Declaration of Independence about where our rights are endowed from, but in the Constitution, where every reference makes it very clear that all of our rights in the Bill of Rights are aimed at people, not legal fictions. This is my problem. I'm actually extremely supportive of the Greens. What he said is right. They are very decent people. I have never questioned that. Yeah. They are. They have paid their employees well beyond the minimum wage for many years. I got no problem with them. I have no problem with their religious beliefs. My problem is if they felt this way, and that's okay with me, there were other ways they could do business, even having already been a corporation. They could have easily have changed that corporation to a sole proprietorship or a limited or general partnership and avoided the issue. They would have lost the benefits of the corporate shield when it comes to personal liability, and they may have lost some tax benefits, but they would have been following their religious beliefs.
But the government, who now claims, and the Obama administration today, the president's so concerned how this might affect women. First of all, as Dershowitz said, it's very unlikely that any women will be affected because there are other ways. Okay.
I agree.
So the demagoguery is starting, but also we had the attorney for Hobby Lobby on, and for the Green family specifically, and she said that the Solicitor General argued that it would be perfectly acceptable for Hobby Lobby to just disband, don't give any employees any health insurance, and don't give them a raise or any money to help them pay for their own health insurance, and that would be an acceptable alternative to the government. So how could they now claim the president's so worried about women when the government argued dump all health insurance?
I'm not talking about the president. I agree. I do agree with you. The demagoguery is going to start for a very simple reason. When I'm talking to you about corporations and the importance of it, no one cares. Okay, you can't make a political case based on corporations.
Right.
It's important to me because I think it's important that we understand the difference between human beings and legal fictions. But yeah, of course they're going to go that way. Notice I haven't said a word about women's rights. I do agree with Alan. People didn't know in this case that that Hobby Lobby's insurance policy they're going to offer allows all sorts of contraceptive devices, only for which they believe are abortion, are omitted. So I would agree with him. I don't think that's too much of a burden to put on somebody.
Right.
I haven't got a problem with that. My problem is what it has done for the Supreme Court to abrogate what a corporation is and to abrogate what the founders believed about corporations and what the founders wanted to convey in our Bill of Rights, and to extend that to
God-given rights.
You know what? God didn't create corporations. He created people.
Okay, but I don't believe the
governments
founders
create corporations.
Oh, true. But I don't believe that governments create corporations, people form. But I don't believe that the founders ever would have envisioned the government dictating to a business owner to do something that violated their religious beliefs.
Actually, what the founders would not have agreed with is government dictating to an individual to do something that violated their religious beliefs. I agree with that 100%. But they had very little sympathy for corporations. Let me just quickly tell you how a corporation was allowed to exist in the time of the founders. They had a limited lifespan, on average 20 to 30 years. They could only be involved in the one business that they were pursuing. They were not allowed to own stock in any other corporation. Right there, all of Wall Street's gone. Right? And my favorite one, in most states, if a corporation made a political contribution, it was a criminal offense.
Okay, I get it.
That's how they viewed corporations.
You're a lot more educated on the Founding Fathers' views on corporations than I am.
Well, but the Supreme Court should be.
Okay, but this was a test of religious liberty. This was a test of a business that would have gone out of business if the government won in forcing them to do something against their religious beliefs. And I feel, based on what I do know about the Founding Fathers, well, they said they would. They would rather go out of business than acquiesce, and otherwise they would have been fine.
Here's what was false about that statement. There were any number of ways they could have done business.
But they would have lost this, they would have lost protection.
They would have lost that. And here's what's fascinating about it. What the Supreme Court basically said today was, in the instance of a closely held corporation by one family, the line between them and the corporate entity is so thin that they can, by attribution, place their religious rights into that corporation. Okay, fine. So that conversely has to mean that that line being so thin that if the corporation incurs a personal liability, if they lose a major lawsuit, well, before today, the owners were protected. They were protected from personal liability. If that line is so thin that they can literally transfer their religious beliefs to the corporation, then why shouldn't the corporation be able to transfer that liability to them, going the other way?
Well, that's a whole other issue.
But there's no logic to not.
Yeah. All right. And by the way, this case came before the nuns, the sisters case, and many others like the sisters who are being forced.
Right.
So this is, we got a minute on this segment, then we'll get to others in the next segment. But this has to bode well for the nuns in their cases.
It probably is decided already.
Yeah.
No,
because people felt this one had the chance of going either way, but that was the winner, and now it's only a matter of time.
Assuming it's closely held corporate. I mean, this is where it's going to be fascinating. They've opened the door, and you realize they overturned years of standing law in this decision. You know, they're trying to sell it as so narrow, but it did. It clearly overturned law.
Because for the first time ever, we have a government that's trying to impede the religious freedom and liberty of people.
Actually, it's not true.
And corporations.
We've had many cases where religious freedom were at issue.
All right, here we are. We're coming back with Rick Unger, and we haven't touched on the union. I'm sure you'll want to weigh in on the union case, 5-4 as well, and maybe a little bit, if we have time, on Obama's declaration today that he will solve the immigration problem as much as he can using this, because Congress won't act. We're coming back. Don't go away.
Are you feeling tired, run down, low on energy? Well, you could be just like millions of Americans whose thyroid gland isn't functioning the way it's supposed to. Well, now there's hope to change all of that. Introducing Actilin. Actilin is a premium nutritional supplement designed to support optimal thyroid function. Actilin has 17 powerful ingredients that support adrenal health, thyroid function, energy, and your immune system. Actilin was formulated by the renowned holistic practitioner, Dr. David Brownstein. And now, for a limited time, you can get a free bottle of Actilin with our special offer. You pay only for shipping and handling. Act right now and get Dr. Brownstein's free special report, a doctor's guide to a healthy thyroid. Get Actilin and the special report. Sign up today at getactilin.com. That's getactilin.com. Or call us at the number below.
When you've got a serious leak, it's time for Leakender 2000. It fixes any leak fast, no matter what's leaking. Just spray it with Leakender 2000, and in minutes, the leak is sealed. Look, we'll cut this garden hose with a knife, then shut off the water and spray on Leakender 2000. Minutes later, the hose is as good as new. The cut is sealed. Leakender 2000 is a unique compound that fills and seals any crack or separation as it hardens. Why put up with gushing gutters, dripping drains, wet windowsills, and rain-soaked RVs? Leakender 2000 stops all those leaks, and it's yours for only $14.95. Call now and we'll double your order. We'll send you this giant-size can at no extra charge. Order now.
To order, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-873-2700 or send check or money order for $14.95 plus $5.95 shipping to the address on your screen. Call 1-800-873-2700.
US Med has great news for anyone living with diabetes.
If you have Medicare, private insurance, or prescription drug coverage, US Med will ship a new glucose meter right to your home.
And shipping is free.
My new meter uses only a speck of blood, so it's less painful than my previous meter.
If you have Medicare, private insurance, or prescription drug coverage, you're covered with US Med. We're welcoming new patients, even if your current provider can't supply you anymore.
I don't even have to test on my fingers anymore. I can test on my hand or forearms, and it's more accurate than my old meter.
So call US Med today, and you'll have a choice of 2 great meters.
One that actually speaks your results, or a meter so small it fits in the bottle of strips.
Act now, and US Med will include a free prescription discount card. We'll also send you a free diabetes cookbook. This is your opportunity.
So call US Med today.
You'll be glad you did.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. President Obama met with Chilean President Michelle Bachelet today. The two discussed construction plans for a solar power plant in Chile. Obama says he'll be collaborating on clean energy solutions to meet the country's needs. The two leaders also discussed regional security and other issues. Chile is one of the non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council this year. And heavy winds tore through Wisconsin over the weekend. The National Weather Service clocked the gusts at 30 to 60 miles per hour. The winds downed trees and damaged power lines at an airport in La Crosse County on Saturday. Parts of La Crosse County remain under a flood warning. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, we're back with part 2 of our interview with Rick Unger. And, of course, you watch him on Sirius XM, Steele and Unger, Saturdays, 11 a.m. And you don't watch him, you listen to him. Yeah, I don't know. You know what I used to do? Let me tell you something. Because we have such a short time, I need to waste time. When back in the 90s, or when I was on WABC and all, or maybe it was early 2000, I'd say to people, now you go to your store, this is how ahead of my time I was, and you ask them for the radio TV monitor that you could buy. You just hook it up to your radio, and you'll be able to see me in the studio. And I would get calls.
Yeah, I've heard about your audience. They probably believed it.
I was going to say,
my
some
audience
people
is
called in and
very
said,
smart, so
I
they
tried,
wouldn't.
and I couldn't get it. Anyway, all right, the Supreme Court decision, actually, number 1 announced today was the unions, the healthcare workers, and the court saying that not only do the healthcare workers not have to join that union, but they're willing to address even further restrictions on joining a union. So what's your take on that?
This, look, I mean, I'm a union supporter, so I'm not entirely happy with the decision because it will have a huge impact on the unions. But at least this one, you could see and argue both sides of this. You really could. I understand the argument that was put forth by the plaintiffs. I mean, there is a reasonable argument that your First Amendment rights are being abridged when you're forced to associate with something you don't want to associate with. On the other hand, there's something that we call the freeloader rule in the unions, which is allowing people who aren't members but are in the same workplace to get the benefits of union representation and everything that comes with it without having to pay something for it. That's what led to the rule we had before today, which was they had to make a contribution to the union.
Because they're getting the same benefits.
But not political.
Right.
Now, the argument that the plaintiffs made were everything's political.
Everything's political.
So I can, you know, I'm not surprised the court came down this way. I think it's a little bit unfortunate. The simple truth is we're down to, I think, under 6% of private industry unions, employees being represented by unions. I'm not a huge fan of public unions. I do see the problem of giving lots of money to a candidate who wins and then sits across the negotiating table from you. I get it. I wish that we put more focus on the private unions and maybe see them elect leaders that are a little better.
All right, fair enough. We got 30 seconds. So Obama blaming the irresponsible Republicans today and saying, hey, you know, I'd love to have a solution. Just pass legislation. If you don't, I'll have to do it for you. That's not kind of how we work. We got 20 seconds.
Well, you know, it all depends what he does and if it does fall within the executive powers. I know everybody is quick to go, oh, he's being an imperial president.
Well,
he's
12 times, a 9-0 decision against him.
12 times?
Yeah. Supreme Court.
You mean last week?
Well, no, not just last week. If you add them all up, the Supreme Court and the lower court.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, so we'll see. We'll see what he does, and we'll talk about it specifically. Great to see you, my friend. Thank you as always. All right, folks. As you know, we have this wonderful, wonderful feature, and we're coming back with it before we come back with the show, and it's America's Moment. And today's America's Moment, this particular America's Moment, takes a look at FDR's 1935 Social Security Act. Don't go away.
Today, a hope of many years standing is in large part fulfilled.
The Social Security Act of 1935 was the cornerstone of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal agenda, a program designed to ease the burden of old age by providing a continuing income to those 65 and older, benefits to those unemployed, and protections and assistance to disabled children. At the time, the program was limited in scope since the average American's lifespan in 1940 was just 63 years. But in the dark days of the Great Depression, FDR offered comforting words to a nation emerging from the nation's worst economic crisis in its history, the Great Depression. The first Social Security check was issued on January 31st, 1940, to Ida Mae Fuller, who was unmarried. A school teacher and legal secretary, Fuller worked only 3 years under the new Social Security law, earning her a check in the amount of $22.54. Today, the average Social Security recipient receives a monthly check of $1,294, and the law was amended in 1956 to include disability benefits to those who qualify. The program was originally designed as a pay-as-you-go, self-funding trust fund, with equal contributions being made by both the employer as well as the employee, as demonstrated in this 1940 film.
As soon as you get the card, show it to your employer. He'll need it on payday, for he must deduct from your salary 1.5% of your earnings as your share of the cost of Social Security.
The plan remains essentially the same today. But the system has a rocky road ahead. In 1950, 16 employees paid into the Social Security system for every one retiree. Today, 3 workers pay in per retiree, and within 2 decades, just 2 workers will pay to support each retiree. Still, since its beginning, hundreds of millions of Americans have and continue to benefit from the program. For Newsmax TV, I'm Bill Curtis, and this is an American Moment.
I'm only in my 60s. I've got a nice long life ahead, big plans. So when I found out Medicare doesn't pay all my medical expenses, I looked at my options. Then, I got a Medicare supplement insurance plan.
If you're eligible for Medicare, you may know it only covers about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. The rest is up to you. Call now and find out about an AARP Medicare supplement insurance plan insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare supplement insurance plans, it helps pick up some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs.
To me, relationships matter. I've been with my doctor for 12 years. Now I know I'll be able to stick with them.
With these types of plans, you'll be able to visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients. Plus, there are no networks and virtually no referrals needed. So don't wait. Call now and request this free decision guide to help you better understand Medicare and which AARP Medicare supplement plan might be best for you. There's a wide range to choose from.
We love to travel, and there's so much more to see. So we found a plan that can travel with us anywhere in the country.
Join the millions of people who have already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP, an organization serving the needs of people 50 and over for generations. Remember, all Medicare supplement insurance plans help cover what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. Call now to request your free decision guide and learn more about the kinds of plans that will be here for you now and down the road.
I have a lifetime of experience, so I know how important that is.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic. Some will never return. With thy blessing, we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
You know, the Constitution makes it clear that a president's job is to faithfully execute the laws. In my view, the president has not faithfully executed the laws. This is not about impeachment. This is about his faithfully executing the laws of our country.
All right, so you're getting the point there from John Boehner in announcing the lawsuit against the president, that he doesn't believe he's executing the laws. And joining us now is Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief at Truth Revolt, editor-at-large, Breitbart News, and New York Times best-selling author. His newest one, The People versus Barack Obama, the criminal case against the Obama administration. Ben, welcome back, sir.
Hey, thanks so much.
Okay, so let me ask you. I mean, in just the past, today it was Hobby Lobby. The Supreme Court on Thursday weighed in with another major case, a blow to the Obama administration. Earlier in the week, they did the same. I think it's 12 9-0 cases that the courts have ruled against Obama when it comes to issues of constitutionality with regard to his policies. So it would seem to me that this administration, more so than any other I could recall, I don't care about executive orders, the number versus the other number, one president versus the other. This administration is trying to get away with things that no other administration in modern history has tried, correct?
There's no question. The attempt to exert executive authority in the way that the Obama administration has done is unprecedented in American history. Now, it is true that the executive branch of government has been growing consistently for the last 100 years, but the President Obama's attempt to use authority in areas that are specifically designated areas of congressional authority is astonishing. Everything from his complete refusal to enforce immigration law on anybody between the ages of 16 and 30 to his attempt to use the HHS to mandate that religious employers cover birth control. These are all elements of an executive branch that is completely out of control. And that sees no limits to its own power. And honestly, even though everybody is sort of celebrating the Supreme Court putting limits on President Obama, the truth is these are extraordinarily minor limits. These are very narrow decisions. Even the 9-0 decision that came down last week, supposedly limiting his power to make recess appointments, Justice Scalia pointed out in his concurrence, all it actually does is allow him to make more recess appointments because it sets an objective standard. So if Congress breaks for 10 days, even if they don't declare themselves in recess, they're effectively in recess, and President Obama can go ahead and appoint anybody he wants. So what we're seeing right now is the unchecked growth of the executive branch, and it's very scary. I mean, when the President of the United States is going around saying things like, well, if Congress really, if they're really so upset about me usurping power, why don't they just act with me? That's dictatorial language. I mean, the way that the government works in the United States is not that if we disagree with you, that we have to act with you, or you're just going to do it on your own. That's exactly counter to what the Constitution was meant to design. And it's kind of pathetic that so many Americans have fallen into this pattern of, if I agree with the president, it's okay if he usurps authority, and if I disagree, suddenly it's bad.
No, you're absolutely right, and you hit on a great point, because we've played that soundbite. And the president, at his speech the other day, where they're suing me, and maybe I think he used an example. Maybe I made a mistake and said if I'm going to raise the minimum wage, and if you don't like it, sue me. Of course, he's totally demagoguing, misrepresenting the whole issue, and you're absolutely right. He's saying, I got to do this because, hey, you guys won't do it with me. You disagree with me, so start agreeing with me, and I won't have to do it by myself. You're absolutely right, and that's not the way this country works.
I mean, that's the way dictatorships work, and that's the way dictatorships begin, really and truly. I mean, I'm not talking about President Obama declaring himself president in perpetuity, but right now what we are drawing close to in the United States is an elected tyranny, the idea that we can elect our president every 4 years, and then we sit down and we shut up for the entirety of the 4 years while he goes ahead and he does exactly what it is that he wants. The President of the United States, right now, I mean, I was really thinking about this the other day. What exactly could the President of the United States not do that we would what could he do that we would actually place limits on him, or he would actually be stopped? I mean, let's take, for example, Obamacare. He says very often that he didn't get everything that he wanted. Originally, he wanted a public option on Obamacare. Well, right now, the supposed solution to the Hobby Lobby case for the Obama administration is for them to unilaterally pass a regulation stating that if I refuse to pay my employees contraceptive care, we'll just shift it to the taxpayer. So suddenly the taxpayer is going to get a subsidy from the federal government. Where exactly was the authority to do that? But we all just kind of accept it and move on with our lives. If the President of the United States wanted a public option tomorrow, who's to say that the president couldn't just set up a branch and start offering a public option? Who exactly would stop him? Congress theoretically could cut funding, but they have a really poor history of doing that, and the president of the United States could just go out and borrow more money anyway by blowing up the Treasury Department. So we've now fallen into a pattern where there are no checks and balances in the federal government, and that is extraordinarily scary no matter which side of the aisle you're on.
Absolutely, and you brought out before laws that the president decided not to follow, and there are others with welfare reform, the work provision of welfare reform as signed by Clinton, and it goes right on down the line. And let's talk a little bit about what could be on the horizon here. He's basically announced it, and his spokesperson, his new spokesperson last week, basically trumpeted it and proudly that we're meeting with HHS, and we can't wait for the Congress to act, and we're moving ahead with immigration reform. Now, I don't know how much he could do, or if it even matters.
He can do whatever he wants. The president can do whatever he wants on immigration reform. He can actually exercise, theoretically, he could do a Jimmy Carter in which Jimmy Carter amnestied all of the draft dodgers from the Vietnam War. Theoretically, he could just say, look, I amnesty everybody who's committed a federal crime in crossing the border. He theoretically could do that. That'd be the ultimate exertion of executive authority. That would actually be more constitutional than some of the other things that he's talking about doing. These kind of, I'm not going to enforce any immigration law like he did with the Dreamers. That would be the most extreme form. I think I could see him doing something like that. I don't think he's going to go that far. I think what he probably will do is just extend the Dreamers provision that he's created with the DOJ to virtually everybody. So now if you cross the border between such and such state and such state, we're not going to prosecute you so long as you're not a felon. I think that we're going to see that come from the president right quick.
Ben, let me ask you about the IRS. Many people have said if this were a Republican president, there'd be a lot of hell to pay, and it'd be being paid right now by the administration. I keep hearing, from the media that there's no proof that this went up to the administration level or the White House, but of course there's a lot of proof that's missing in the emails. Where do you think, the president has told us on scandal after scandal, not only that there's not an iota of impropriety, blah, 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 but he comes out and he goes to the microphone and he says, hey, I just found out about it watching it on TV like you. Veterans Administration, IRS, you name it. When and if do you think will this president ever be held accountable for any of these things?
I'm not sure that the president's ever going to be held accountable, not when we have members of the House that don't want to do what it is that they can do. What I've suggested in the People versus Barack Obama is that what the House really should do is they should put forward a bill that would allow the American people to sue the administration directly for violations of law. that would be a useful provision. I don't think the House is going to do that. The House could theoretically impeach lower-level IRS officials. But right now, here's the problem. They keep doing all of these impotent things like, oh, I know, we'll call for Obama to appoint a special prosecutor. Why in hell would President Obama authorize his DOJ to appoint a special prosecutor? You know how corrupt this administration is? Here's an example of how corrupt and disgusting this administration is. If this doesn't prove how involved they are with the IRS, I'm not sure anything does. There's another IRS case that nobody's talking about, and that is the National Organization for Marriage, which is run by a guy named John Eastman. Their tax records, their confidential tax records, were leaked to the Human Rights Campaign, a gay rights organization. That's a violation of federal law. And when that happened, John Eastman said, okay, fine, how about this? You prosecute the guy who's the middleman, right? There's a middleman there who got the information from the IRS and then passed it along to the Human Rights Campaign. Why don't you prosecute him? Because he's declaring the fifth. He refuses to testify under oath. The Obama administration said, we're not going to prosecute anybody on this. So John Eastman said, fine, grant the guy immunity. That way he can't plead the fifth, and we can compel him to testify about exactly who in the IRS funnels him the information. The Obama DOJ came back and said, we won't give him immunity either. So in other words, we're not going to prosecute him, and we won't give him immunity so he can testify. That is what we call a cover-up.
Yeah, that is certainly what you call a cover-up. Let me ask you one final question on Boehner. Some Republicans have said that Boehner's lawsuit is a waste of time because, as you mentioned, Congress has other options, two other options, one involving funding. There's also the fact that this will never get through the courts while Obama's still president. So is it more cosmetic, or does Boehner actually think, or is there any chance, I should ask you, that this will mean anything in any time in the near future?
It's cosmetic, but I think the cosmetics matter here, and I think that we ought to be all on the same page when we call this administration criminal. These are not people who are just poorly informed, or people who are not involved in criminal activity, or people who are just on the other side of the political aisle. These are criminals who are routinely violating federal law and violating the separation of powers. And in that sense, I think Boehner is exactly right to file the lawsuit.
All right, well, read all about it in Ben Shapiro's new bestseller, ladies and gentlemen, The People versus Barack Obama. Ben, always good to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much.
You too. Be well.
All right, Ben Shapiro, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very interesting. And look, I stress to you, I plead with you to understand, and I know for the most part I'm preaching to the choir, but when someone like Jonathan Turley, acknowledged by everyone to be one of the foremost constitutional scholars in the country, who voted for Barack Obama, I believe he said twice, says that I like the policies of this president for the most part. I voted for the guy. I like the guy, but he's out of control. He is what the founders feared. He's running an imperial presidency. We all need to listen. Coming back with Gimme 5. Don't go away.
Meet Jim. Like many of us, Jim enjoys a busy life. Between work, family, and friends, his days zip along. And Jim has the energy to tackle almost anything. But lately, Jim's get up and go has literally taken on a new meaning. Jim's always put focus on a full night's sleep, but it seems like these days, he's up and down to go to the bathroom so many times he can barely wake up in the morning. His prostate concerns have him sad, tired, and worried. Activities that were once enjoyable now seem like a chore for Jim. His golf game is at the mercy of his bathroom schedule. Family outings are planned around it too. Jim even has difficulty going to the bathroom. He's tried so many prostate remedies he can't keep them straight, and nothing ever seems to help. Then Jim found out about Prostate Revive, the all-natural dietary supplement specifically formulated for men, targeted towards improving and sustaining normal prostate function. Prostate Revive includes 15 super ingredients never combined before, including saw palmetto extract, beta-cytosterol, pomegranate fruit extract, selenium, and other high-quality nutrients. These targeted and all-natural ingredients promote healthy urinary flow and optimal prostate health. And the best part is, Prostate Revive was developed by a renowned medical doctor. Dr. David Brownstein personally formulated Prostate Revive with one goal in mind, to promote a healthy prostate gland. Thanks to Prostate Revive, Jim's got his life back. He gets a full night's sleep every night, and his friends and his wife can't believe he's the same guy. He has his old energy back, and no one has to wait for him. He doesn't even think about his prostate concerns anymore. Visit medicselect.com to take back your nights and improve your quality of life with Prostate Revive.
Learn about our risk-free trial offer at prostaterevive.com/Jim.
Mom! Mom?
This mom was lucky that her daughter happened to stop by. Can your mom or dad reach a phone in such an emergency? The solution is Life Alert. Life Alert saves a life from a catastrophe every 11 minutes.
Linda, thank you for finding Life Alert for me. I feel much safer having it.
Whenever my mother needed help, Life Alert was there.
Because of Life Alert, my mother's life was saved.
Life Alert definitely saved my mother-in-law's life that day. There's no doubt about it.
We save a life from a catastrophe every 11 minutes. For a free Life Alert brochure, call 800-954-2339. That's 800-954-2339. Call 800-954-2339.
Time to wake up.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Don't forget, you've got a job to do today.
Hey, Mom. I got the job. Thanks. I've got the job. Welcome aboard.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
Went on a YouTube rant against Fox News host Judge Jeanine Pirro, calling her more dangerous than terrorist group ISIS. He was specifically referring to Pirro's comments that the way to deal with ISIS is to, quote, bomb them, keep bombing them, and then bomb them again. Russell Brand says that he feels this actually creates more terrorists than it kills.
Oh, is that what Russell Brand, terrorist expert, thinks? Thank you, Whoopi. All right, welcome to Give Me Five. Folks, Whoopi Goldberg is now the only remaining member of The View. They fired everybody else. I don't know if they're off the set yet or not, but they're all done. Okay, they're all going away. They're kaput. Only Whoopi Goldberg remains, and there's rumors of bringing back Rosie. Oh, God, help us. But anyway, she's going to get into a confrontation here with Will Cain of TheBlaze.com and CNN, and makes you wonder why Whoopi Goldberg's the only one left standing. Let's watch some more of this exchange.
This is so inappropriate. Russell, in this commentary, compares ISIS, this group running around the Middle East, lopping heads off left and right, to Fox News, who, they might persuade somebody. And I think it's part of this whole trend we have now. We elevate words to the most harmful thing in society. How dare you say something that could offend somebody? That's right. How dare you say something that could hurt my feelings?
Yep, okay, great point, Will, right? Well, what color are you, Will? You're white, right? I asked that for a reason. You'll soon find out, folks. Watch.
We have a history of utilizing words to harm people and hurt people. And the people who have been on the other side of it, I think are at the point where they're saying, you know what, this is not okay anymore. And you gotta roll with it, because at some point we all have to grow up.
And verbal abuse is sometimes worse than physical abuse. There was a time when it was sticks and stones could break my bones, but your words cannot hurt me.
But that's not true. But that's not true, that saying. I don't believe in that saying one bit. Sticks and stones may hurt, may break you, but words will never hurt you. Words do hurt you. Yeah. Words, labels can hurt you. This, you know, when you say aware of those words, look, why not just be kind to one another and not use them?
Okay, so words hurt you, and you got to be held accountable now for words. Freedom of speech goes out the window. No longer is it just you can't yell fire in a theater, right? Now you better not offend anybody, because, hey, if it was up to this crew, I'm convinced that they would pass laws or be of passing laws that would restrict freedom of speech based on the fact that you can't offend anybody. Well, you offend everybody or somebody every time you open your mouth. Don't you? I do. Not purposely, but I do. Now, you say, what are you talking about race? Why'd you ask if Will Cain is white? Why'd you bring that up? Oh, I don't bring it up. Now, somehow the conversation shifted to the Washington Redskins. Words, I don't know. Redskin, that hurts. Here we go.
You got to be bigger than
you know what?
Like
You cannot say that to. Well, what you can do is say, you know what? Don't use that redskin thing anymore. I'm not comfortable with it. Don't say this word because I don't like it. I'm Irish. I don't want to hear this. Every one of these groups has the absolute right to say, this has been harmful. This has hurt my parents. This has hurt my grandparents. And don't use it anymore, or you're going to hear about it. Or use it and don't be surprised that people are pissed.
Out of business. We'll all stop talking. Everybody's offended all the time. From the Fighting Irish to the Redskins, everybody's offended.
Wait. That is spoken like a true white guy.
Maybe. That's what I am.
It's spoken like a true white guy, because if you, and I don't mean it in a bad way.
Oh, she doesn't mean spoken like a true white guy in a bad way. Oh, so if I had an African-American guest sitting here who I disagreed with and I said spoken like a true black guy, then I could get away with it by saying I don't mean it in a bad way, and I'm sure everything would be fine. And Whoopi would say, he didn't mean it in a bad way. More.
My argument is not that there's no such thing as offensive words. It's how you react to them. You don't shut people up because you disagree or found something they said somewhat offensive. You roll on with your life.
No. You know, the whole reason that, and I'm going to say the words, so just everybody calm down. The whole reason they is because people just got tired of it.
And if it rolled over and said, oh, just, don't worry about it. People would still be using it to hurt.
People are sensitive. Don't use it. Period. Or use it as an opening for a discussion like we're doing right here. I mean, you can be offended by something, but you can also say, let's talk it out. Let's find a common ground.
Just to bring this full circle, don't compare it to terrorism.
That's right. No more freedom of speech. No more freedom. And Whoopi, who called him a white guy, is the only one of the View who's left. What does that tell you on the Steve Malzberg Show?